In a place where everything had turned to ashes, as if the world itself had ended, a sudden blaring announcement cut through the silence: an emergency alert. Inside a wrecked car, a radio speaker was still miraculously working, crackling out the report. A pack of level 4 monsters Belto had appeared at the said Daemon intersection. The response team currently dispatched included the level 2 awakened Commerce Master Gamsangu, along with, suddenly, a mild tremor shook the ground, rattling everything in its wake, and the message continued, along with the Zenkaku squad. A young man rushed forward, planting himself firmly in front of a horde of massive beasts. They towered in size, terrifying to behold. They galloped around in a frenzy, letting out ear-piercing cries. Then, one of them suddenly threw its head back and let out a thunderous roar. He braced himself against the onslaught. It was only 10 of them, but the sheer force of their voices made it feel as if his eardrums were about to burst. With a swift motion he lashed out a whip twee. Sparks cracked across the air. Then he sprang high into the sky, swinging down a sword that discharged bolts of lightning at the monster's geo. But just then his sharp eyes caught something unusual. A blinding light suddenly flared in the middle of the sky and exploded outward. The blast released a violent gust that swept across the ruins, flinging everything away like scraps of paper. He froze, wide-eyed in disbelief. What the hell? The shockwave toppled the Belto, knocking them flat. As the dust settled, a young woman sprinted up, shouting breathlessly, "Captain! Of course it was you taking down that many Belto in one strike." But the young man's expression remained cold. "That wasn't me. I'm not the kind of high-output damage dealer who can wipe out an entire horde in one blow. That's more like the Sword Queen's specialty." His gaze shifted, narrowing in another direction. "Were there any other awakened units dispatched here besides us?" he asked calmly. She shook her head immediately. "No, sir. I haven't heard of anyone else being sent." He rubbed his chin thoughtfully, his voice low. "Strange, as far as I know, there's no one in this country who possesses power on this scale." She noticed something odd. Their slain monsters had been left behind, yet no one had collected the magic stones from their corpses. That was supposed to be the most valuable part. The captain, still unsettled, muttered under his breath, "Damn it, what the hell kind of situation is this?" His mind spun with possibilities. Judging from the clean, surgical cuts on the Belto, it was without question the work of an awakened. Someone wielding power at least on par with Class A, no, perhaps even a Class 5. And yet they had disappeared without leaving a trace. What was their objective? Breaking from his thoughts, he ordered the woman beside him, "For now, gather the magic stones and contact headquarters. Have them send a corpse disposal team." "Yes, Captain," she replied crisply. His eyes flicked toward something else, a faint sound catching his attention. It was a restaurant, standing tall and strangely untouched amid the devastation. The sign above it simply read, "Restaurant." The young man let out a dry, sarcastic chuckle. If that pervert butcher had made even the slightest mistake carving out just the Belto's chest parts, those corpses might have ended up spilling over into this place. Guess the owner here got pretty damn lucky. Stretching his arms with a satisfied sigh, he added, "Come on. I'm in the mood for a few drinks." Nearby, a few birds perched quietly along a crumbling wall. Inside the building, another young man slowly descended a staircase, towel in hand, gently drying his damp hair. He paused for a moment, taking in the scene of carnage outside, then wordlessly stepped into his own restaurant as though nothing had happened. He flicked on the stove, placed a pan down, and let it heat up. He pulled a slab of meat from the freezer and set it down, then carefully gathered all the ingredients he needed for cooking. Standing with his hands on his hips, he fell deep into thought. His eyes fixed on the chunk of meat before him. Did I carve too little Belto meat this time? His mind wandered. By now the Belto corpses have probably already been collected, right? Maybe I should make some jerky instead. Just then, a voice rang out, "Is Kang Chil-ho here?" A man stepped forward and stopped across from him. "I'm from the Awakened Association. Are you Kang Chil-ho?" "Yes," Chil-ho answered without hesitation. The man continued, "A pack of Belto just attacked this area. Fortunately they were taken down quickly. But I imagine you must have been terrified." He leaned in with genuine concern. "I came to check whether you've suffered any damage." Chil-ho scratched the back of his head, searching for a reply. Well, I mean, isn't that kind of an everyday thing now?" The young official gave a wry smile. "People say the world has become much more stable. but things like this still happen from time to time. Luckily there aren't many residents around here, so the damage was minimal. Then, all of a sudden an aroma drifted through the air. The smell of food from Chielho's kitchen reached the man's nose. He sniffed deeply, eyes widening. "Wow, what is that? Smells amazing." Chielho responded flatly, "It's a restaurant. What else would it smell like?" The man gave a sheepish laugh. "Right, well, if you're open, could I maybe have breakfast here? I've been running around since dawn and haven't had a single bite." Chielho's lips curved into a faint smile. "Sure." The man stepped inside, surprised by what he found. The interior was spotless, polished to a shine without a trace of dust. He let out a low whistle. "Huh, looks just like one of those diners you'd see in old movies, back before the gates appeared." Looking around, he frowned slightly. I don't see a menu. Do you have one?" Chielho shook his head. "No menus here. We cook based on whatever ingredients we manage to get that day." The man slid into a seat. "I see. So, anything special on the menu today?" Chielho tied on an apron and turned with a bright, almost mischievous smile. "Today we've got Belto steak." The man froze. "Belto," he quickly added, "you mean from earlier? I saw 10 of them." Thankfully, Master Gamsanku took care of it. Looked like they were headed straight for the market. Pouring milk into a hot pan, Chielho replied casually, "Yes, thanks to that, I got my hands on some fresh Belto meat. They're ferocious beasts, but their meat is delicious." The man blinked. "Belto meat, you say?" Chielho gave a confident nod. "Just try it as steak." The man hesitated, intrigued but wary. "Sounds interesting. Though honestly I'm more worried about my wallet. Steak. In a place like this. I thought it was just a humble diner. Hope I can actually afford it." Chielho ignored his doubt, picking up a sharp knife and slicing the meat cleanly into thick cuts. He sprinkled salt across both sides, seasoning them with practiced precision. And as he worked, a thought flickered through his mind. 30 years ago, when I first woke up, I was summoned to another world, a place of soaring dragons and rampaging monsters. The world had been overrun with terrifying mutated beasts. I was summoned to another world. I fought tooth and nail to survive, facing those horrifying creatures head-on. Again and again, I clashed with them in brutal battles, until I finally gained power greater than even the dragons themselves. With my sword slung arrogantly across my shoulder, I sought out my enemies one by one. In the end, I defeated the Demon King. By sheer coincidence, I was able to return to Earth. But the home I once knew was no longer the same. The soul I remembered was gone. As Chielho sprinkled pepper across the meat, his mind wandered. For 30 years I was trapped in that other world, battling the Demon King and seeing monsters until I grew sick of the sight of them. I mastered their traits, their weaknesses, and how to bring them down. Yet, when I returned, I saw people here. He poured wine over the steak, letting it sizzle. I wonder, is there even a need for me to fight anymore? When the meat was ready, he plated it carefully, slicing it into bite-sized cuts. The people of Earth are defending this world in their own way, under their own rules. Finally, he spooned the sizzling juices from the pan over the dish. So this is what the era has become. Chielho carried the plate over with a light smile. "It's done." The Belto steak was set before the guest, premium Belto breast, drizzled with cowl mix sauce. "Here," Chielho said, placing it on the table. The man's eyes went wide at the sight of the dish. "Go ahead, try it," Chielho urged. Inwardly, the man was stunned. "Wow, I only came here to fill my stomach before heading out again, but this looks incredible." He lifted a piece of steak to his mouth. "All right, just one bite." The very next second, his eyes lit up. The flavor was so extraordinary he couldn't hold back his praise. It's unbelievably juicy." Inside, his thoughts tumbled. Those Belto tormented me all morning, nearly drove me insane. And now, they're soothing my nerves with every bite of this steak. Without realizing it, he bent over his plate and kept eating. No, now's not the time to think about anything else. He chewed nonstop, barely swallowing before taking another piece, then another. His taste buds soaked in every ounce of flavor. "That's it. No matter how expensive this is, today I'm going all in." Moments later, the plate was scraped clean. He set it down eagerly. "Excuse me, another Belto steak, please." Chielho only nodded. "All right." But inside he thought, I hunted them for myself to eat, and yet. The man devoured a second plate just as quickly. Wiping his mouth, he exhaled with satisfaction. Phew, that was amazing. Can I get the bill, please? Hyolho finally spoke. I don't charge first-time customers. The man blinked. No way. This was insanely good. He scratched the back of his head, flustered. Thanks to you, all the exhaustion I've been carrying just melted away. I'll definitely be coming back here often, so please, let me pay for it. Hyolho's lips curved into a quiet smile. In that case, he said at last, $10. The man handed him a bill. Done. As he turned to leave, he paused at the doorway. Thanks for the meal. Oh, and by the way, Hyolho followed him out with a simple nod. Yes. Before leaving, the man gave Hyolho a word of caution. Stay safe, alright? These days, people like you and me, those of us who aren't awakened, we've got it rough. If monsters show up near here again, make sure you evacuate immediately. He carefully handed Hyolho a business card. Here, this is mine. Compared to a few years ago, when this area was practically a wasteland, cafes, bars and markets have started popping back up. But it's still dangerous. Hyolho glanced down at the card, reading the details. The man added, if anything happens, please call me. And thanks again for the meal. Inwardly, Hyolho thought, tough times for those without awakening. He stepped back inside the restaurant, still lost in thought. Not a bad guy. Live long, civil servant. After a short while, Hyolho cooked up another belto steak, this time for himself. He sat down and savored the rich aroma and flavor. As expected, it was delicious. Outside, an owl cried out, drawn by the scent wafting from the restaurant. Hyolho rose from his seat, stretching and giving his shoulder a couple of light punches. Another smooth day of business. I'll pour myself a drink and head in. His gaze drifted toward the pile of eggs he'd bought earlier. Maybe I should whip up something with those belto eggs, but how should I cook them? Suddenly, the door slammed open with a loud bang. A young man stood in the doorway, posture arrogant, and expression filled with irritation. So here you are. Hyolho blinked, confused, not understanding what this was about. The youth raised his voice, declaring boldly, I've come to take back what's mine. A few hours earlier, at the traditional Sayadaemun market, the lively voices of vendors rang out, hawking their goods. Medicine boiled with belto meat, freshly prepared. We're buying mana crystals for high prices. Since the emergence of monsters, livestock and fresh vegetables had often become their prey, making basic ingredients scarce. Kang Hyolho strolled through the bustling market. Humanity had no choice but to rely on monsters as a food source, and though many were reluctant at first, perhaps because monster meat tasted better than expected, or maybe because it was much cheaper, people had quickly adapted. These days, artificial farming provided a stable supply of meat and vegetables, yet monster products remained a popular choice. As Hyolho wandered the market, he reflected, thanks to that, the Sayadaemun monster market has grown in scale. His attention was caught by a vendor calling out, these monster eggs just arrived in bulk. Take a look, sir. Hyolho approached the stall and remarked, looks like fresh belto eggs just came in. The vendor nodded uncertainly. I'm not so sure. The Awakener Association already inspected them, but you know how monster eggs are, they all look alike. I can't really tell the difference. Hyolho's eyes shifted, pupils turning violet as he activated the appraisal of Canas, a gift of the Silver Dragon who once ruled the northern ranges of that otherworldly empire. It allowed him to pierce the essence of any target. One of the artifacts I stole after slaying the Demon King. Even now, it's still one of my most reliable tools. A system display hovered before his eyes, cataloging the eggs. Belto, Atano, Triceratops. Because he could see their strengths, inclinations, and even discern truth from lies. Hyolho tried not to abuse the power on people. After scanning through, he made a decision. I'll take the whole lot. The vendor's eyes lit up. That's quite a purchase. If he knew the truth, he'd only regret it, Hyolho thought. Then, his gaze landed on one particular egg. Oddly, no information surfaced. Huh? Why doesn't the system show anything for that one? He pointed. Boss, add that egg too. Of course, the vendor replied immediately. Back home, Hyolho cracked open a belto egg into a pan. On the battlefield, eating had always felt like wasted time. Yet as he poured in milk, he reflected, I used to think a good meal was a luxury, but over time it's become one of the few true comforts left. The dish came together: scrambled belto eggs, made with belto eggs and cowl milk. They said food and scent were the best ways to bring back memories. He recalled his comrades, one of them asking, "There's County milk in here, right? That's why it's so creamy." His younger self had replied coldly, "I'm not sure." He chewed slowly now, musing. The Belto eggs blended with cow milk to create a rich, tender texture he couldn't deny. Delicious. If I close my eyes, the memories all come rushing back. Faces I long for, even the ones I can no longer see. Am I really getting old? After a pause, Chilho glanced at the strange egg. So, it couldn't be appraised, huh? As far as he knew, a dragon's artifact was something naturally born when a dragon emerged, formed by absorbing its innate power. That was why it emitted crushing pressure on nearby creatures, yet could never be used against its own kind. Running his hand along the mysterious shell, he muttered, "Could this actually be a dragon egg? I never thought I'd find one at a marketplace." While he was still lost in thought, pondering what kind of dish could be made from such an egg, and what it might taste like, the door suddenly flew open. Chilho turned his head. Ham. A figure stood at the threshold, peering around curiously. "So this is the restaurant," Khan muttered, sounding both doubtful and intrigued. Khan suddenly snapped, his voice sharp, "I'm here to take back what's mine." His finger shot toward the egg in Chilho's hand. "So that's where it ended up." Chilho instinctively activated appraisal on the boy, but nothing came up. No information at all, and if he's after this egg, he spoke evenly. "You're a dragon, aren't you?" Rubbing his chin, he mused aloud. "Didn't think dragons really existed in this world, though I had my suspicions." Khan's whole body trembled with fury. "What? How did you know?" His voice cracked into a roar. "Answer me, mortal." But Chilho remained calm. "I don't intend to fight. The artifact I carry, appraisal, can see through nearly everything. The only thing it can't reveal are dragons." Khan faltered, confused. "Appraisal? Why would a dragon's artifact be in the hands of a human like you?" Chilho's tone was almost amused. "Oh, you recognize it then. That makes this easier." Khan's thoughts churned violently. This man, he's no ordinary innkeeper. Standing before a dragon, yet so calm? Impossible. Chilho set the egg gently on the table, then crossed his arms. "Take it. I'm glad its owner finally came for it. I only hope you clean up after yourself before leaving." Khan's anger only burned hotter. A mere human dares to speak to me like that. His eyes darted to the kitchen. A blade hung on the wall, its edge shimmering faintly. Dragon scales. A weapon. Chilho shrugged. "It's a knife. But sure, it can be a weapon too. Mostly I use it in the kitchen." Khan's gaze shifted to a cutting board, its surface gleaming faintly. The smell told him enough. "Dragon bone?" "Correct." Khan grit his teeth, mind boiling. Dragon bone, scales, even the flesh, all priceless. And he uses them as kitchenware. He butchered my kin and turned them into cooking tools. His voice dropped, venomous. "I cannot forgive you." A heartbeat later, Khan's jaws opened wide. From deep within, blue spiritual fire condensed into a blazing sphere. "Die, human filth." Chilho only sighed. "Ha," he tilted his head. "Is cleaning up afterward really that much of a hassle? You're the one who sullied it." Khan shouted, unleashing the sphere. The blue orb streaked toward him, but Chilho's eyes only narrowed. "Just as I thought." He raised a hand, calling out sharply, "Dragon." He snatched up a frying pan and swung it into a guard, not to kill but to deflect. The orb slammed forward, and with a sharp clang, Chilho flicked his wrist, hurling it aside. Khan's eyes widened. "What?" Chilho leaned low, pan poised to strike. His voice was cold. "Then don't expect mercy." The pan's arc swept straight toward Khan's face, deadly precise, obedient to its wielder. And then Chilho froze. That voice, I know it. Where did I hear it before? Memory surged years ago, blade sliding free from its sheath, his younger self speaking with razor certainty, "I'll take down the Demon King. The first don't have time to waste, and I hate tedious games. So let's cut to the chase. Hand me the artifact. You're not even using it, better let me put it to work. If you refuse, I'll beat you down and take it." Before him towered a massive crimson dragon, glaring with burning eyes. The beast snarled, jaws lowering close. All but from behind, a younger voice cried out desperately, "No, father. Stop. That's Miralicus." It was Khan, once a trembling dragon whelp, staring up in terror. I saw him 30 years ago. I know it's him. If you fight him, father, you'll lose. Chielho turned his gaze on the boy. Just a kid. His voice softened. You shouldn't witness this. Back in the present, Kan's eyes shot open. His face was drenched in sweat, chest heaving with panicked breaths. Chielho sat eating leisurely when he finally spoke to the boy across from him. You're awake. Good. Then let's talk. I want to discuss the matter of cleaning up. He continued, once you're done, you can take back what's yours. Kan's whole body trembled at those words. To be honest, Chielho said, almost casually, I've never really liked dragons. Personal reasons. So if you refuse me, I'll have no choice but to use force. And so, begrudgingly, Kan wrung out a rag and began scrubbing the floor. He wiped away the spilled water in silence, shoulders hunched, until Chielho asked, You don't seem to be from around here. You recognized appraisal after all. Kan muttered while working, I was born on the continent of Ispan. Not long ago, I was dragged into this world through a dimensional rift. Chielho rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Espan, huh? So this world is connected to it after all. No wonder the monsters look so familiar, they must have come from Espan too. He leaned back. Over there they call me Miro Lycus. Here I'm Kang Chielho. Either name ring a bell? Kan froze, rag halfway off the floor. His eyes shot up at Chielho before quickly dropping back down as he resumed scrubbing. What's wrong? Chielho asked dryly. Your hand stopped moving. I knew it, Kan thought bitterly. It really is him, that man. Soon the floor gleamed spotless. Chielho nodded. Oh, not bad. Now, go on and collect your belongings. Kan shot him a glare. And what about my father's artifact? Why didn't you return it after killing the Demon King? That made Chielho pause. Your father? Who was he? Ekmund Rex, Kan replied sharply. Chielho raised his brows. That Rex dragon, eh? No wonder your aura feels familiar. So you're the whelp from back then. The sound of water sloshing made Kan jump. The bucket had tipped. Yes. Chielho beckoned him over. Come here. I won't hit you. I gave up beating dragons 30 years ago. Though you just tried to hit me, didn't you? Kan recoiled. Don't lie. Even if I don't know a human's lifespan, there's no way you haven't aged in 30 years. Chielho tilted his head. How old are you anyway? Kan counted under his breath. 1, 2, I think just over 50. Chielho replied evenly, so you're around 50. I'm older, then I'm 60. Kan blinked in disbelief. What? Are you an elf or something? Do humans even live that long? A crooked grin spread across Chielho's face. You think I'm that handsome, huh? Kan rolled his eyes. Not exactly. Resting his chin in his hand, Chielho mused. In those days punishment was the only cure for unruly dragons. He chuckled. Kan bristled. What's so funny? Chielho smiled faintly. Just amusing seeing a dragon so wary of a human. Kan slammed his hand on the table. Even dragons feel fear. You killed my kin, are you planning to kill me next? Chielho remained composed. You're mistaken. The dragon scale knife and the bone cutting board. Gifts. True, I fought a few dragons, but I've never killed one. He added. As for your father's artifact, it shattered when I fought the Demon King. Even if I wanted to, I couldn't return it. I do regret that. But I needed it. Though honestly, I've even forgotten what that artifact was. Chielho set his hand flat on the table. Seems like you've got a lot more to say. You drink? Kan stiffened, pride warring with discomfort. How could I share a drink with a lowly human like you? Yet a short while later he was sprawled across the table, drunk out of his mind. Raising one hand, he slurred. You're the first human to drink with a dragon. You should feel honored. Chielho laughed proudly. Another first to add to my list. Huh. He turned the topic. That egg, did you lay it yourself? But you're still so young for a dragon, remarkable, if true. Kan immediately snapped idiot. I'm male. Males don't lay eggs. That's my sibling. Chielho blinked. I thought dragons were hermaphrodites. Your sibling, huh? Kan's voice turned heavy. Not long ago, a dimensional rift tore open inside our lair. Our parents weren't home. So you ended up stranded between worlds? Chielho said. How long have you been here? Kan groaned, face still buried on the table. Half a year. Hyulho nodded slowly. Same as me when I returned to Earth. Kan lifted his head slightly, startled. Wait. I heard you disappeared after killing the Demon King. You didn't return immediately. I had some things to take care of, Hyulho explained. Took a while. Kan muttered drowsily. I see, fascinating. What was that? Hyulho asked. Kan squinted at him. Why hide out in this useless restaurant? You saved the world, disappeared, and then popped up again in some other dimension. He pressed on. A monster like you could easily rule this world. With beasts running wild everywhere, why don't you take it all for yourself? Hyulho spoke gently. Why would you think that? Suddenly Kan shot upright and slammed the table with both hands. Because humans are always the same. Power, war, greed. When you captured the Demon King and saved the world, wasn't it humans who turned on each other afterward? Hyulho only swirled the water in his glass, unbothered. Resting his cheek in his hand, he replied. Sounds about right. But I've got no interest in any of that. I'm sick of it. Kan's cheeks flushed red. I don't believe a single word from a human. Hyulho ignored the outburst and reminded him calmly. At the very least, take care of your only sibling. Kan instantly cradled the egg to his chest, rocking it back and forth. Yes, my sibling. Beautiful, isn't she? Then, without warning, his whole body pitched sideways and he collapsed with a thud. Hyulho sighed. I told you to be careful. A moment later, Kan slowly cracked one eye open. Right in front of him was a newborn hatchling, tiny, scales still damp, its eyes wide and curious. What are those eyes? Kan whispered, stunned. He sat across the table from the little creature, a smile tugging at his lips. What? The hatchling let out a tiny, squeaky cry. Kan's face lit up with joy. My sister, she's here, he beamed. She's finally been born. Hyulho asked, what do you usually call her? Little dragon, Kan replied quickly. Hyulho tilted his head. Isn't that just what people call any baby dragon? Kan shot back. I'm working on a proper name. Hyulho stroked the hatchling gently. Is it a boy or a girl? Kan bristled instantly. She's a girl. And don't you dare treat her like some mere beast. Hyulho chuckled, tickling the tiny creature's chin. She's no bigger than a grain of millet, and already has a few teeth. Dragons are omnivores, huh? Kan was overflowing with happiness. Yes, my little sister. Isn't she adorable? The most adorable in the world. Hyulho kept petting the hatchling's forehead, murmuring, yeah. Then he looked back at Kan. So where are you planning to take her? Kan fell silent, deep in thought. Hyulho watched him struggle to come up with an answer. Finally he chuckled softly and said, well, if you've got somewhere to go, at least eat something before you leave. Outside the window, rain poured in sheets, the wind howling like something feral. Through that storm moved a pack of wretched demons. The gusts carried the sharp stench of blood. The last glass of wine we'd shared still lingered in memory. A voice weak, strained called his name. Miro. And through the iron tang of blood, the voice forced out words. I am still alive. Scene shift back inside Hyulho's diner. On the table sat the evening's dish, a super-growth hamburger steak, made from Belto chicken breast, and tender padding from Triceratops legs. Soft as sponge cake, perfect for both children and the elderly. Hyulho cut the food into small pieces, feeding them one by one to Q, then gently wiping her mouth. So, are you heading home after this? He asked. Kan, halfway through his meal, nearly choked. Well, yeah, I guess. He scratched his cheek awkwardly before blurting out. How much does a meal here cost anyway? Hyulho glanced at him. $10. But you can leave without paying. Kan slumped, as if drained of all energy. Why would you then? Bluntly he asked. Do you even have a place to stay? Hyulho replied without hesitation. No, I don't. Kan went quiet. Hyulho understood immediately. So that's it. Falling into another world, of course it must feel lonely. I always thought dragons were supposed to be proud, arrogant creatures. He thought further, a dragon who feels lonely, if the scholars back in Espen found out, they'd write hundreds of papers on the subject. Kan suddenly pulled something from his pocket. Here, take this. It was a level 4 mana stone. It still holds value even in this world, Kan explained. Q crawled over, pawing at the gem until peffed. She let out a silly giggle. Hyulho couldn't help but laugh. Khan turned red. Why are you laughing, huh? Q clambered onto Chil-ho, babbling happily. Q-ru. Q-ru. Chil-ho asked her. Still hungry. He carved off more meat and fed her bite after bite. Trying to live on Earth with a baby like this, even for a dragon, it won't be easy, he thought. Khan's gaze drifted far away. He remembered that voice calling his name Miro. Maybe I do miss that world a little. Chil-ho mused silently. If she's still alive, I'll probably never get the chance to see her again. Khan suddenly brightened. Stay a few days, why don't you? You don't need to, rely on that thing so much. Chil-ho considered it. Having someone to share secrets with, maybe that adds a bit of joy to life. Khan spoke again, almost reluctantly. Anyway, I can't just keep depending on you like this. You've fed me, and… Chil-ho raised his index finger. A black haze of energy seeped out from its tip. I see. I'll hold on to it for now. As he drew the finger downward, the dark aura expanded until crooked door materialized. Khan's eyes widened. Huh. The door opened, and out stepped a small goblin in a sharp suit, skin pale green, movement smooth and formal. Welcome, Lord of the World, the goblin said with a bow. It has been so long since you last visited the subspace. Khan nearly spat out his drink. A goblin. Chil-ho clarified. An immortal goblin. He manages the items stored in my subspace. Long time no see, Kasim. And I told you not to call me that. My apologies, my lord, Kasim said smoothly. Now you're simply Kang Chil-ho. Chil-ho got straight to the point. How many mana stones are inside? Kasim extended his hand. An illusion appeared in the air. A mountain of mana stones. As countless as grains of sand. But if we're talking about high grade, he explained, there are 5 superior stones and 120 premiums. Chil-ho tossed him the level 4 stone Khan had given him. Add this one to the collection. Kasim caught it effortlessly. Another grain of sand then, Chil-ho added, end transmission. Oh wait. Bring that one out first. Yes sir. Kasim produced the requested item. Khan's jaw dropped. Superior grade. That's basically level 1 here, and he's got them lying around like pebbles? Chil-ho smirked. Not bad. Kasim stepped backward into the subspace door, bowing with ceremony. Until next time, Lord of the World. Chil-ho's face hardened. Kang Chil-ho. Just Kang Chil-ho. He slapped his hand against the table. All right. Now I've got a job for you. At that moment, Q lay peacefully on a soft mattress, still sound asleep, while outside, a sudden blaze of fire roared to life. Chil-ho hefted an enormous meat skewer and scolded seriously, see? I told you already, if you keep spewing fire carelessly like that, you'll burn everything down. You've got to control your flames with precision. Khan lowered his head, dazed and subdued. Got it, Chil-ho then demonstrated again, slow and deliberate. Alright, try once more. Begin. A short while later, after being roasted just enough, the meat firmed up, releasing a mouth-watering aroma. This was flame-grilled Ataho steak, the main cut being Ataho sirloin seasoned with Khan's breath. He gave a cool nod. There. That's good enough. Khan stared at the slice of sirloin in his hands, then blurted out. That thin blade you pulled from your subspace earlier, there's no way that's just some ordinary weapon, right? Chil-ho replied evenly, probably not. He paused, then added, it's called, what was it again? The Rikafel axis, I think. Khan froze. Memories came rushing back, people cheering its name in the past, revering it as a legend. His voice faltered. The Rikafel axis, forged by the dwarven artisan Rikafel himself. His life's greatest masterpiece. A divine weapon, there's nothing on earth more legendary than that. Both men stepped back into the diner. Khan shook his head, half frustrated. And you're using a priceless artifact like that just to cook meat. That's not what a weapon like that is meant for. Chil-ho shrugged, unconcerned. Better to use it than to hoard it like some dragon stockpiling treasures you'll never actually touch. Khan rubbed his chin thoughtfully. Meef. True enough. Inwardly, he muttered. This guy, he doesn't act like a dragon at all. Just then, the diner door opened. Evening, boss, came a familiar voice. It was Jae Woo, dressed sharply in a tailored suit. He raised a hand in a polite salute. Just dropping by while on patrol. On the counter, all the dishes including the recaphylaxes were being carefully washed clean. Jae-woo sat down, savoring the meal with genuine appreciation. Man, smells amazing as always. Noticing Kan scrubbing dishes with determination, he chuckled. Looks like you've hired new help, huh? Hyul-ho gave a casual nod. Something like that. But Jae-woo's expression quickly hardened. Right, on to the real matter. A new dungeon has emerged in the underground tunnel between Sinchon and Seodaemon. Seodaemon's already recruiting awakened hunters for the raid. Hyul-ho's voice remained calm. Is that so? But inside, his mind stirred. A dungeon forming, darkness, desolation. Dungeons were, by nature, breeding grounds for monsters. They worked like gateways summoning creatures from other dimensions where rifts had already opened. Hyul-ho reflected, so it's the same in my case too. And judging by Kan's situation, yeah, it all lines up. A few seconds later he asked, any word on difficulty? The young officer replied promptly, estimated at level 5. Jae-woo continued, Seodaemon will have Swordmage Kim Sung-koo and the Zenkaku team assigned. Over in Sinchon, Cheon will be leading a squad. Hyul-ho raised a brow. Cheon. So if Seodaemon's guarded by a sword mage, then Sinchon is under the watch of the Ice Witch. Exactly. And just to be safe, they're also putting together a reserve squad. That's why the square's packed today with job seekers. Every time I see it, it breaks my heart. These days there are so many awakened that only the very best get chosen. He laced his fingers together, his tone somber. Feels just like looking at an old labor camp. Most of them probably have families waiting at home. Honestly, sometimes I feel lucky just being an ordinary man with a steady job, instead of an awakened. Outside, the sun was already setting. Jae-woo glanced at his watch. Wow, look at the time. Thanks for the meal, as always. Ken finished drying the dishes and perked up. Hey, they're all saying my Ataho roast was a big hit. Hyul-ho rose from his seat. Looks that way. He tucked away the money he'd been given. Guess I'll need to buy more Ataho beef. Stepping outside, he called out to the butcher, 10 pounds of Ataho sirloin please. The vendor asked, sure thing. Want me to slice it? No, Hyul-ho said coolly. Whole cuts. Just then, another voice boomed across the square. Anyone who wants to join the raid, form a line over here. A crowd began gathering. Hyul-ho's eyes narrowed. That guy looks familiar. Who was he again? Then it clicked. Right. Swordmage Kim Sung-koo, an awakened of level 2. So this is the recruitment site for the raid I heard about earlier. Lately, raid groups for these underground dungeons had become known simply as strike teams. The system felt almost like those old RPG games. Hyul-ho smirked faintly. Good thing I used to play games back in the day. Makes this all a lot easier to grasp. Everyone gathered there listened intently as the raid rules were announced. Ever since the world had shifted into something resembling a fantasy game, the language of those games had become everyday terms, and that wasn't the only similarity. For example, tanks and healers were treated like nobility. Meanwhile, support roles were always in surplus. TF's roles, however, because they were so diverse, overflowed with awakened who wanted to be one. One man raised his voice. Desperate. Any openings for D's? I've got more than enough power. Please. But another shouted back, sorry. We're short on healers right now. Hyul-ho listened in silence. So that's how it is. Unless your offensive abilities are truly exceptional, it's hard to land a spot. He recalled Jae-woo's words from before. Most of them probably have families too. His eyes grew cold as he swept his gaze over the crowd. Pathetic. Turning away, he thought of Choi Jae-woo. He's a good man. I just wish he cared about himself a little more. As he passed through the square, a young man brushed by him. The youth pulled a wallet from his pocket, opened it, and stared inside empty. With a sigh, he snapped it shut and trudged on. Later Hyul-ho arrived back at his diner. He set the bag of Ataho sirloin on the counter. Standing in the spotless kitchen, he frowned. Kan? Must've come in earlier and cleaned the place up. Then he turned, sensing someone at the doorway. A man with a weary face spoke hesitantly. You're still open, right? Come in. Take a seat, Hyul-ho invited. Ah, thank you. The man, Kim Man-ho, asked nervously, do you sell ramen here? I'm sorry if not, it's fine, Hyul-ho replied casually. Just give me a moment. He reached up to grab a packet from the shelf, thinking to himself, strange. Ramen's still the cheap standby after 30 years. That hasn't changed. The price has gone up though, and the flavor's different. They don't even use wheat anymore. MANHWA raised a timid hand. How much for a bowl? $2, Chilho said. The man's eyes lit up. That cheap? Then can I order 5 bowls? 5? Chilho blinked. You sure you can finish them all? The man nodded fervently. Yes. Absolutely. Please, I'd be so grateful. What is this? Chilho thought, activating his appraisal. Scan disposition, good class. Divine eater, class proficiency, lowest tier learning aptitude, high. Chilho's eyes narrowed. Divine eater? I remember that skill. One of my old teammates had it. Such people grew from frail and scrawny into hulking powerhouses simply by eating. The more they ate, the stronger they became, with higher grade ingredients making a bigger difference. Given enough monster meat, they could become truly formidable. But early on, their growth was painfully slow. Hard to make use of them until they've bulked up on high-level monsters. Still, he glanced at MANHWA, who was clutching his stomach, ravenous. Always hungry. But once he reached a certain point, he'd be unstoppable. Chilho tore open the ramen packet and began cooking. Clearly the man wasn't anywhere near that level yet. In less than 5 minutes he set a steaming bowl down. Here you go. Extra large ramen, with roasted atajo beef swimming in the broth. Main ingredients: roasted atajo sirloin ramen noodles. MANHWA stared at the meat, stammering. This is as on the house, Chilho said flatly. The man's face lit up. Really? Chilho studied him as he dug in. Inwardly he remained wary. Good people always suffer first. I know that too well. In times like these, the righteous are the first to fall. If his disposition wasn't aligned with good, I'd walk away even with that divine eater trait. MANHWA lifted a slice of atajo beef, eyes gleaming. With aptitude that high, atajo meat should trigger a decent effect, Chilho thought. Then he spoke aloud. Here in my diner, the first customer of the day always eats on the house. Makes them want to come back again. He sank his teeth into the first bite without hesitation. Thank you so much. The moment the atajo sirloin slid down his throat, it was as if flowers bloomed inside his stomach. He blinked in surprise, then muttered in awe. I never imagined meat could be this rich, this fragrant. Chilho smirked, arms crossed. You've got good taste. MANHWA slurped up the noodles in a single go. Then, with equal vigor, he drained the broth. By the end the bowl gleamed spotless, as if polished. Amazing. Truly amazing, he exclaimed. Bowing his head in gratitude, he said, thank you, boss. Thanks to you I've had a real meal for once. Chilho waved it off with a light chuckle. Think nothing of it. If you enjoyed it, that's enough. MANHWA continued praising the ramen between breaths, fumbling for his wallet. In his fluster something slipped from his pocket and clattered to the floor. It was so delicious. Ah, right, payment. Oh, he crouched quickly, snatching it up. In his hands was something pristine, a brand new tie. He offered 2 crumpled bills across the counter. Sorry, the money's a bit dirty. But thank you for such a wonderful meal. Chilho accepted the payment with a nod. No problem. Leaving with a sheepish grin, MANHWA scratched the back of his head. I'll definitely be back next time. Leaning against the wall, Chilho folded his arms, lost in thought. Dust all over his clothes, yet a spotless new tie. What's he trying to prove? Beside him, Kan furrowed his brows. Huh? When'd you get back? Chilho didn't answer right away, suspicion still lingering. That man's lived a hard life in this chaos, I remember thinking that. Then I let it slip from my mind. Later, he spotted the man again out on the street. Same weary expression, the same sadness carved deep into his face. As MANHWA walked, a dungeon gate shimmered into existence before him. Then with a violent crack, the portal exploded open. The dungeon gate erupted into existence right in the middle of a crowded avenue. People panicked, shouting over one another. Stay behind the barricade, it's dangerous. Please everyone move back. MANHWA pressed himself close to the barrier, calling out, I'm an awakener. Is there anything I can do to help? A man in uniform turned, sizing him up. What rank are you? MANHWA fumbled in his pocket, pulling something from his coat. I work in food service. I don't really have any special combat skills, but my strength. The man cut him off sharply. Listen. This isn't a dungeon a run-of-the-mill awakener can walk into. Even our raid team came back battered. That gate is lethal. Through the shifting crowd, Manhwa's eyes locked on someone, his daughter, Mi-jin, kneeling beside the wounded, her hands glowing faintly as she channeled healing energy. Still, the guard blocked his path. The best thing you can do is evacuate to a safe zone. Mi-jin, he shouted over the noise. The girl's head snapped up. Dad. Ignoring the warnings, Manhwa shoved past the barricade and sprinted toward her. Mi-jin. What are you doing in a place this dangerous? What about school? Her face was flushed, exhausted. There were too many casualties. The school sent every awakener student they could to help. He reached for her shoulder. But she brushed his hand off, irritation flashing in her eyes. Dad, why are you even here? I'll handle this, just leave before you get hurt. I was worried about you, he said softly. Don't you get that? Worried? She snapped, voice rising. You said yourself your only ability is eating. You eat, you work, you eat, you work, you don't even come home. And now you think throwing yourself into danger helps anyone. Shoving him back with both hands, she shouted. I told you I needed money, so I came here to earn a scholarship. But when you barge in like this, you just make me look pathetic. Go evacuate already. Something slipped from his jacket pocket, in the scuffle a small box. A tie case. Mi-jin stared at it in confusion. A tie. Her expression hardened, disappointment cutting deep. You don't even have a proper weapon, Dad. Before he could respond, a ripple ran through the crowd. From the dungeon gate stepped a figure, Sanggu, flanked by his disciples. The dungeon raid is complete, he announced loudly. Well done, everyone. Another voice rang out, healers. Gather here and tend to the wounded. Mi-jin tore her gaze from her father and dashed toward the call. Yes, sir. Manhwa remained where he stood, silent, the cheers and chatter of the crowd swelling around him. Thank you for your efforts. Thank you for your dedication. Meanwhile, elsewhere, in a classroom, a man carefully polished a blade. The lecture continued. The types of abilities an awakener can possess. There are 5 stages of proficiency, each one bringing a person closer to the rank of master. In this world, especially here in Korea, the Cipher School has replaced traditional education, serving as a training ground for awakeners. Once an awakener fully masters their first class, they may, depending on their environment and will, select a second. To achieve mastery in 2 classes marks a person as rank 1 or higher in the Awakener Association, a feat nearly impossible for ordinary people. Thus, those born with weak or slow developing skills often seek peace in finding their own path, however humble it may be. The 6th class. In my final battle, I mastered mine. Cheol-ho stood there, lost in thought. Yet afterward there was no sign of another class awakening. I suppose this is my limit. Suddenly Kan came rushing in, face pale. Miro. Cheol-ho's expression hardened. It's Cheol-ho. Kan nearly stumbled over his words. Something huge just happened. In his arms he carried a boy Q chewing happily on a scrap of taffy. Cheol-ho frowned. Q? Isn't that the word for tangerine in Korean? Kan laughed, hugging the child. That's his name. Anyway, never mind that, look at this. Turning his tone playful, he coaxed the toddler. Kyol, say it. Say baba. Come on, say daddy. Q's eyes crinkled into crescents as he giggled, chanting baba bababa. Cheol-ho froze in disbelief. Did he just say that? The little one kept going, delighted with his own voice. Baba ba bababa. Cheol-ho muttered, half to himself. But isn't that a bit too Korean sounding for a name? Kan only grinned. The kid named himself Kyul. And besides, he was born in this world. Baba. Q squealed again, waving his tiny arms. Kan melted instantly, pride flooding his voice. You hear that? This dragon is calling me daddy. Cheol-ho gave a curt nod. Yeah. I heard. He reached over and ruffled the boy's hair. They say dragons are born already proficient in a class. I wonder which one Kyul has mastered. Kan's eyes gleamed with hope. I can't wait to find out. Guess we'll see when he's a little older. Suddenly the door to the restaurant creaked open, making both of them jump. Owner, a voice called. It was Manhwa. He shuffled inside, shoulders heavy, and said quietly, 5 bowls of ramen, please. Right away if you can. Kan, manning the kitchen, faltered for a moment. How am I supposed to run a real restaurant like this? Meanwhile, MANHWA sat down, fingers laced together, and began to talk. Today I was planning to see if I could join a dungeon raid. But I ran into my daughter instead. She said she could earn a scholarship if she helped heal the wounded. But that place was dangerous, too dangerous. He lowered his gaze. I couldn't even say anything to her. They told me to evacuate. I'm just a rank 7 awakener. Basically no different from an ordinary civilian. His voice wavered as he went on. My daughter, though, she awakened a healing ability when she was just a child. She's already rank 3. One of the top students in her school. The Awakener Association will take good care of her, I'm sure. He looked up at Chil-ho. She's the girl you saw last time. I went to her school on her behalf because they invited parents to attend a class observation. Tuition is so expensive. From his pocket he pulled out the small tie case. I thought if I was going to her school, I should at least bring her something. Turns out the only thing I could afford was this tie. He rubbed his stomach with a weak laugh. Anyway, I figured it was better not to attend. What good is a father who can't even properly support his daughter's graduation? A chuckle slipped out of him, bitter but honest. Even now I'm just hungry. Damn it. Chil-ho listened quietly, not interrupting. I'm just a useless awakener from the culinary system, MANHWA said. All I do is eat. Eat, so that maybe just maybe the government will send me to disaster zones where a dungeon gate has exploded, and collapsed buildings need clearing. At last Chil-ho rose from his seat. Can turned from the stove, ladle in hand. What is it? Chil-ho's eyes narrowed. Mind if I fatten you up? Can choked. What the hell? You're seriously waiting for me to get plump before you strike? Like some predator fattening up its prey. Chil-ho smirked faintly. Just kidding, Can snorted. That's Kyul's molted skin you've been eyeing. Why are you staring at it like that? I collected it carefully, he added defensively. Chil-ho leaned back. Relax. I plan to keep it as a memento. Before long, Can set down a steaming, oversized bowl. Special Ataho ramen, extra large. Grilled Ataho meat on top, and some of Kyle's roasted scales. MANHWA blinked. Wait, this meat wasn't it from before? Ken buried his face in his hands, groaning in silence. My collection. Chil-ho only shrugged. We've got plenty of leftovers. Please, enjoy. MANHWA hesitated, then picked up his chopsticks. The sound of him slurping filled the quiet shop. Slurp, gulp, slurp. When he was done, he placed some bills by the empty bowl and bowed deeply. Thank you for the meal. And for listening. Chil-ho folded his arms and shut his eyes. It's nothing. Just as MANHWA reached the door, Chil-ho spoke again, his voice even but gentle. Life's full of difficulties. If only anything could be easy. MANHWA paused, listening. But for those who work hard every single day, Chil-ho added. Sometimes good things do happen. MANHWA turned back. Eyes warm, his gratitude unspoken. Chil-ho gave a faint smile. So live through tomorrow. I'll be here, same as always. Come back. Ken poked his head out of the kitchen. What's with you? He hasn't changed at all. Chil-ho replied calmly, I did what I could. He ate dragon molt. That'll help him, one way or another. Can hugged Kyul close. A useful gift, sure. But why help him? Chil-ho stayed silent for a moment. Then he placed a hand on Kyul's head. My father, he once had shoulders like his. Kan raised an eyebrow. So you had a dad too, huh? He didn't get to finish. Chil-ho smacked him on the head. You ask too many questions. Later, MANHWA arrived home. Mi-jin was already asleep, curled up under her blanket. On the desk beside her bed, he noticed the tie box. She had picked it up after all. Dad, she whispered suddenly, eyes closed. Tears slipped down her cheeks. Dad, I'm sorry. MANHWA reached out and gently stroked his daughter's head. His voice was soft, almost breaking. It's okay, Daddy's sorry too. He sat by her bedside, watching her sleep, and guilt clawed at him. I'm sorry I couldn't live like other people. I'm sorry I've been a father you had to be embarrassed about in front of your friends. I'm sorry I couldn't give you an easier life. He pulled the blanket up around her shoulders and whispered, but no matter what, I'll always love you. Later that afternoon, a voice rang out across the recruitment grounds. We're still missing one main assassin. One final spot left. MANHWA came running, chest heaving. Here, I'll do it. The man in charge raised an eyebrow. Please present your awakener registration card. Still panting, MANHWA fumbled in his pocket and handed it over. The officer studied it, then blinked. Wait, aren't you the guy from before? What was your name again? MANHWA hesitated, then answered, Kim Man-ho. Yeah, that's it. You're that guy, the one who collapsed during that incident in the hibernation zone. What was it called again? Right, the Yeongdongpo dungeon. MANHWA stiffened but nodded. The officer leaned closer, lowering his voice. If that happens again, it'll be a real problem. Sure, that gate's been dealt with. The Zenkaku team took down the final boss. But remember, it was a berserk gate. Dangerous stuff. This time do your best to hold it together, alright? Yes sir, MANHWA muttered, worry flickering in his eyes. The man straightened, raising his hand to the group. Alright. Recruitment complete. Everyone gather up, we're moving out. At the same time, Chilho descended the stairs calmly, gaze drawn toward the street outside. A city bus roared past, speeding straight ahead, faster than usual. His brow furrowed. Strange. Then a ripple of unease swept through the crowd. All eyes turned upward toward the sky where a dungeon gate still floated, shimmering ominously. Sang-hoo cursed under his breath. Damn it. What's the status? A young woman answered quickly. The gate's already closed. Another voice shouted over the noise. According to reports, only the MANHWA Crystal Company's strike team went inside. Their lineup was made up of rank 5 through rank 7 awakeners, recruited early this morning. Somewhere in the crowd, a girl pushed her way through, calling desperately. Dad. Dad. It was Mijin. Her voice cracked as she searched, but all around her, people's gazes remained locked on the glowing rift above. Something was happening, an unexpected shift. A hidden boss had appeared. And still, Mijin cried out in the middle of the crowd, panic and fear in every breath. Dad. Where are you, Dad? A little later the squad pushed deeper into the forest. Stay tight. Don't spread out. The squad leader barked. Clear the small mobs while keeping an eye on your teammates. Move out. MANHWA glanced around at the dense trees, wide-eyed. Wow, but before he could take it in, a young raptor lunged at him from behind. Instinct took over. MANHWA swung around and drove his fist straight into its gut. The beast dropped. MANHWA stared at his own hands in shock. What the? I feel light. Energized. By now I should be starving, but I'm fine? A short-haired girl suddenly shrieked. What the hell is that? Everyone's eyes snapped to the distance where a massive rift had torn open in the dungeon itself. The ground trembled underfoot. The source. A monster's footsteps, heavy, crushing, relentless. Then it appeared. A Tigarex. It opened its maw and unleashed a deafening roar that shook the air. Damn it. A hidden boss, someone yelled. MANHWA froze, rooted in place, staring up at the towering beast. A hidden boss, the kind that only spawned when an extra-dimensional fracture opened. Rare. Deadly. The kind of appearance that usually meant total party wipe. Run. The short-haired girl screamed as she bolted. All around him, the squad broke ranks, scattering in panic. But MANHWA just stood there, paralyzed. The girl dashed past him, shouting, it's coming. Move. That jolted him into motion. He turned and ran. But then he stopped. Something glittered on the ground behind him. Shards of mana crystal, scattered near the corpse of the raptor he had felled. His breath caught. Those are tier 8. Just one of those is worth a week's wages. With that, I could buy Mijin new clothes. I could feed her better. His chest tightened. He didn't think. He dashed for the crystals. The squad leader roared after him, hey. Are you insane? Move. But MANHWA dropped to one knee, reaching out. Just this one. Just one. A shadow fell over him. The Tigarex was already there. Its massive head slammed into him, hurling him like a ragdoll through the air. Pain exploded through his body. His vision blurred. So this is what Mijin meant when she called me pathetic. Darkness crept in. Memories flickered. Mijin crying into her pillow, Mijin smiling in her school uniform, Mijin as a little girl with tear-stained cheeks. The day she was born. Her voice echoed inside his fading mind. Dad, I'm sorry. MANHWA's eyes snapped open. No, I can't die like this. I can't leave Mijin alone in this world. He staggered to his feet, blood running down his face, and faced the monster head on. You hear me, he roared. I'm not dying here. The Tigrex lowered itself, muscles tensing, then charged. MANHWA planted his feet. I'm right here. He clenched his fists, jaw set. Not this time. With a primal scream, he met the beast's charge, slamming his fist straight into its gaping jaws. Time seemed to stop. Crackling energy erupted from his hand, arcs of lightning tearing through the air. The shock wave blasted the forest floor apart. The squad leader gasped. That's a level up. MANHWA looked at his sparking hands, wide-eyed. Did I stop it? Did I just block a hidden boss? The Tigrex reeled back, stunned but not broken. MANHWA could feel it, his punch hadn't even hurt. Yet his body still didn't ache. Still didn't hunger. Then the beast lunged again. For the first time in his life, MANHWA didn't flinch. He threw up his bare hands and caught its massive fangs, holding them back with sheer force. The ground cracked beneath his feet. Rocks split and flew outward. Sweat poured down his face as his arms shook violently under the strain. I'm holding on, I'll keep holding on, and MANHWA gritted his teeth, refusing to give an inch. Just then, the Awakener's squad arrived on the scene. Sang-Hu called out, "Have the civilians been evacuated? Where's the hidden boss?" The squad leader stammered, pointing. "Oh, over there." Sang-Hu's eyes widened when he saw MANHWA grappling with the Tigrex. "Wait, who is that guy?" "He's holding back a Tier 2 Tigrex alone." Che Yan, standing beside him, added calmly, "Looks like it." Sang-Hu smirked. "He's one hell of a man, that's for sure." Down below, MANHWA still struggled, muscles straining as he forced the beast back. He roared with effort and shoved the monster several steps away. The evaluation came flooding in: aptitude defensive, class Shikshin, proficiency average, comprehension high. Sang-Hu sprang onto the Tigrex's back, diverting its attention. From above, Chielho appeared mid-air, analyzing silently. So it's Shikshin. It absorbs enemy attacks and reflects the damage back. People often mistake it for an offensive trait, but in truth, it leans defensive, a rare hybrid, a DPS tank, a special type ability. He crossed his arms, still watching. In terms of Awakener ranks here in Korea, that's a solid power. Easily enough for rank 3. The problem is, not many recognize it for what it really is. Sang-Hu caught MANHWA as he stumbled, guiding him to rest. Chielho nodded to himself. It's handled now. I should head back. Later, back at the restaurant. Q sat at the table, bawling into his sleeves. Chielho stirred something on the stove, then set the boy down with the radio playing in the background. A broadcaster's voice rang out: breaking news from the Seodaemon dungeon raid. The hidden boss, Tigrex, has been defeated. Surprisingly, the man who played the greatest role was Kim MANHWA, a rank 7 Awakener. During the final clash, while resisting the boss's ultimate attack alone, he awakened further, ascending to Shikshin rank 3, and became the key figure in clearing the dungeon. What could have been a catastrophic loss was averted thanks to his efforts. Q's small hands pressed down on a copy of the newspaper, as if the radio weren't enough. The report continued: the Awakener Association has acknowledged a misclassification in his rank, and will soon issue corrections. Alongside a major reward package, Chielho gently lifted Q into his arms. "Reading the paper too, huh?" Caillou wrapped his arms around him tightly. Chielho blinked, then chuckled. "Ha, you've put on a little weight." The boy squealed, "Baba. Baba." Chielho frowned, half amused, half exasperated. "I told you, I'm not your dad." But Q's wide eyes locked onto his. "It is Baba. Baba." Something in his chest cracked open. Chielho laughed softly, ruffling the kid's hair. "You little rascal." The radio droned on. And now for our next story. Local merchants in Seodaemon district are troubled by a petty thief. The suspect seems obsessed with shiny objects and food. In fact, a large number of low-grade mana crystals have mysteriously disappeared from markets in recent weeks. Public pressure is mounting for the association to intervene. Q giggled while playing on the floor. Chielho leaned back, listening. A thief obsessed with sparkly things and food? Huh? The boy toddled over, holding up a glass of water. Bull. Chielho raised an eyebrow. "You want me to drink this? Water?" He lifted the cup toward his mouth. "Stop." Ken burst out of the bathroom, hand raised like a referee calling a foul. Chielho blinked. "What's with the early morning bad vibes, Ken?" Ken ignored him, eyes sharp. "Don't drink that. It's full of bacteria." Chielho froze. What? Khan sighed. Kyuni just learned about wells from a comic book. You know wells, where people draw water to drink. Chielho still held the cup, frowning. Right. And in his mind, Khan continued grimly. A toilet looks exactly like a well. Silence. Chielho slowly lowered the glass, face pale. Scene shift later that evening. Jae-woo dug into dinner at the restaurant, his eyes lighting up. Boss, this kakdugi is amazing. Did you make a fresh batch recently? A platter of steaming kimchi radish cubes sat on the table, fragrant and sharp. Chielho nodded. Yeah, got some good ingredients from Sinshin. The doorbell chimed. Welcome. Chielho called. Manhwa stepped inside, with Sang-hoo right behind him. Today I came with a friend, Manhwa said with a smile. Manhwa gestured toward his companion. This is Captain Gam Sang-hoo. Sang-hoo offered a polite bow. Hello, I've heard quite a lot about you. Chielho blinked in surprise. Huh, he's so polite? Didn't expect that. Sang-hoo then turned to Jae-woo. Lancer Mage, good to see you. Jae-woo shot up from his seat, flustered. Yes, hello. The Awakener Association, right? Sang-hoo sighed lightly, adjusting his collar. Indeed. What a pleasant afternoon this could have been, if not for yet another joint meeting. He forced a smile, chuckling awkwardly. Heh. Jae-woo's eyes flicked toward Manhwa, then went wide. Oh my god. You're Shikshin, aren't you? Shikshin? Chielho tilted his head. Jae-woo practically vibrated with excitement. Yes. The Shikshin Kim Manhwa. The one who pulled off that unbelievable feat against the hidden boss in the Sinshin raid. Boss. Don't you know? His name's been making waves worldwide. And here, if you're famous enough, people attach a special title right to your name. Chielho finally understood. So that's how it works here. Titles stick like nicknames for the renowned. Manhwa gave a modest smile. It's all thanks to the restaurant owner here. Chielho waved a hand, grinning. Don't mention it. Honestly, I was waiting for you to drop by. They sat down together. Chielho clapped his hands. I'll put in ramen for both of you today. My treat. Manhwa chuckled. Sounds great, one bowl for me. Sang-hoo's eyes lit up. You know what, make it two. I suddenly feel like ramen too. Minutes later, Chielho placed steaming bowls before them. Here's your ramen, gentlemen. Manhwa wasted no time. Within seconds he'd slurped down the entire bowl. Sang-hoo froze, stunned. You finished all that in one go? Incredible. Manhwa burst out laughing. Ho ho ho. Sang-hoo shook his head, sighing. If you're done eating, you should head out first. Didn't you say you had to stop by your daughter's school? Manhwa frowned. Even so, I'd feel bad leaving before you. Chielho interjected calmly, it's fine. Better to enjoy your personal time after work. For us it's all about staying ready, so take the rest you can. Go ahead. Manhwa nodded gratefully. Then I'll excuse myself. He rose and left. Chielho glanced at the two of them, a faint smile playing at his lips. The bond between those two isn't half bad. He flipped open a newspaper, chuckling quietly. But suddenly silence. Too quiet. Chielho lowered the paper, glancing across the table. Sang-hoo's head had drooped, resting on the wood. He was asleep. And then, a memory surged forth. Sang-hoo, voice raw with fury, screamed into the chaos, "Goddammit. You crazy bastard, are you insane?" The ground shook. A nine-tailed fox thundered down the street, divine energy raging like wildfire. Sang-hoo's curses echoed against the night. Of all the things you could have messed with, you had to pick a sacred beast. The creature's killing intent flared, its eyes blazing as it lunged forward. Kim Sang-hoo slumped forward, his face buried against the table. A low groan escaped his lips. A moment later he suddenly jerked upright, eyes narrowing on the man across from him. Ah damn, Sang-hoo muttered helplessly. It's already this late. Sorry about that. Chielho gave him a gentle smile. Don't worry. There aren't any other customers tonight anyway. How about a proper meal? Sang-hoo waved his hand politely. No need. I don't have much of an appetite. But before he could say more, the radio on the counter crackled to life. Due to the recent surge in petty theft, many shopkeepers are struggling with. Sang-hoo hesitated, then quietly asked, "Could I get a little drink instead?" Chielho raised an eyebrow. Drink? Sure, but this place only serves soju and beer. Soju then, Sangho replied quickly. And maybe a few side dishes. Whatever you think is good. Hyolho did a quick tally of the ingredients he'd picked up at the market that morning. With what I've got, I could probably pull this off. Sashimi, he offered at last. Sangho blinked. Sashimi. Hyolho nodded firmly. Yes, I managed to buy a fine one today. The scene shifted, as though carried by Hyolho's thoughts. A man held up a painting, his voice echoing when monsters first appeared through dimensional rifts. A new era of beasts arrived on land. And in the oceans the same thing happened. A fish hit the cutting board with a heavy slap. The voice continued. Contemplative, the species once common on Earth 30 years ago are now rare. In their place, fishermen haul up creatures that share a similar taste. Hyolho studied the specimen before him. This one's called a duke fish. A full-grown adult can reach over 3 meters. Which means this little guy is just a juvenile. His knife worked with precision, hands moving on instinct while his mind wandered. Its flavor's close to white flesh fish. If I had to compare, something like sea bass, maybe halibut. The blade slid cleanly, separating head from body. His thoughts deepened. I used to hate sashimi. Always felt like an overpriced luxury, not worth the money. But once you know the taste, nothing compares. A short while later he set down a large platter. Here you go. Try it with the angel hair radish underneath, Hyolho said, his tone still calm. The table now glistened with a generous spread, slices of duke fish sashimi, neatly fanned across the plate. Sangho's eyes lit up. It's been so long since I've had sashimi. He quickly picked up a piece with his chopsticks, then whispered to himself, well then. The moment it hit his tongue, the flavor bloomed clean, subtle, refreshing. So crisp. So light. Paired with the cool crunch of radish, it feels like all my fatigue is just melting away. He lifted his glass, tossing back a shot of soju before the sashimi could even slide down his throat. Aha, he exhaled, satisfied. Glancing up, he grinned. Now this is the first time all week I actually feel like I've clocked out of work. Hyolho's face didn't change. Is that so? He replied flatly. Sangho's face brightened as he rambled on. Yeah, the emergencies are all cleared up, so I've got about 2 days off. This is actually my first vacation in 2 years, though I guess half the day's already gone. His voice drifted, sliding into memory. The days of monster hunts, fighting non-stop, day after day. Honestly, it wasn't the physical strain, it was the mental exhaustion. He couldn't stop replaying it, the endless battles, the rifts opening one after another, never a moment to breathe. Absent-mindedly he glanced out the window. This spirit's the personal weapon they issue to awakened ranked level 2 and above when you graduate from Cipher Academy. Forged from adamantium, it's amazing at absorbing mana. His gaze shifted to the weapon resting nearby. The way he spoke carried a hard edge of pride. Back then, all I felt was honor graduating Cipher with distinction. I thought I could save the world with this power. As long as I had a spear in hand, I wasn't afraid of anything. Then his eyes clouded, voice softening. But once I stepped into the real world, that pride crumbled. Turns out, there are always people stronger. I learned quick how small I really was. How little I mattered compared to what I imagined. He stretched, exhaustion leaking into his words. I've been stationed in Seodaemon for 10 years now. It's been rough. Hyolho's thoughts flickered. Yeah, I used to feel the same way. Eventually, everyone realizes they're not as important as they thought. Doesn't matter if you're awakened or just some ordinary worker, whatever field you're in, the world has a way of humbling you. Finally, Hyolho gave a bitter little verdict. On days like that, the best thing you can do is force a smile and take another shot of soju. The empty glass on the table was already being refilled by a steady hand. Curiosity tugged at him, so Hyolho asked, but aren't you the guardian of Seodaemon? One of the 5 guardians of Korea? That's pretty impressive. Like something out of a comic book. Really? Sangho answered with a hollow laugh. He dropped his gaze to the drink, shoulders heavy. The lives, the hopes, the futures of so many people, they're all placed on my shoulders. Sometimes it's overwhelming. Hyolho tilted his head. Do you have a memory that still haunts you? Sangho set his glass down with a faint clink. Of course I do. His voice softened, almost reverent. You ever heard of the 9-tailed fox? He took a breath, patience lacing his words. Thinking back, it was raining that day. I can still hear someone shouting, damn it. Which idiot woke up the 9-tailed fox? Another voice rang out in his memory, crisp and commanding. It was a gentleman. Irritated, someone had snapped back. And why the hell would a second rank mess with something like that? Another voice answered quickly, we'll get to the bottom of it right away. No sooner had he spoken than a massive beast, towering several times the height of a man, loomed before them. Its roar shook the ground, fierce and commanding. Back in the present, Sangho's voice stayed steady as he explained, creatures with exceptionally high intelligence like the nine-tailed fox are what we call mystic beings. There are many types, but they're always marked as unranked. That designation means, don't touch them, leave them alone. Even through the memory of pouring rain, his analysis carried on. For reasons we still don't fully understand, mystic beings don't engage humans directly. In 30 years, not once have they launched an unprovoked attack. They carve out their own hidden territories, and they live in solitude. He had gone on at length, but the truth lingered, someone had provoked it first. Through the haze of recollection, Sangho remembered the sight of a man standing silently in the rain, 3 birds perched around him. Fury had overtaken him then. He charged forward shouting, "Hey! Gentlemen! You bastard, what the hell did you do?" But the man said nothing, staring back in stunned silence. Sangho pressed on, his face twisted in anger. Why would you? His demand was cut short by the sharp cry of a red-haired woman. "Captain! The nine-tailed fox!" A colossal fox, its body ablaze in living fire, lunged forward with a deafening roar. A commanding voice rang out, "Form up." "That's an unranked nine-tailed fox." Sangho's response was instant. "Attack team, advance." A voice from behind called out, "I'll go in with you." Then another, resolute and booming, "I'll lead the charge." The air twisted with chaotic power as a sphere of fire spun into existence. The very next moment, countless fireballs erupted from the fox's blazing body. Everyone's eyes locked on the red sparks, wide, entranced. The flames themselves seemed to seize control of their vision. Frozen in terror, weapons slipped from trembling hands. Panic shot through Sangho's voice. "Damn it, don't look at the flames on its tails. You'll fall into an illusion." The red-haired woman cried out, desperate, "Captain, it's coming." A violent surge of force tore forward, slamming into their defenses. Flames roared, erupting in an inferno that consumed everything in front of them. Driven back several steps, the red-haired woman braced herself and pushed forward again, fierce determination burning in her stance. But the fiery fox pressed on, overflowing with raw, crushing might. Voices echoed all around him, frantic, calling out the same word again and again, "Captain! Captain!" Sangho didn't answer. Instead, he surged upward, leaping from one floating shield to the next, climbing the sky itself. With a commanding cry, he launched himself high above, then dove in a perfect arc, spear poised, form flawless. The giant fox shrieked in agony as the strike pierced deep. Its eyes, wide and brimming with anguish, fixed on him in one final, desperate glare. And then shockingly, unbearably, it seemed to weep. Twin trails of sorrow welled at the corners of its eyes, as its body began to tear apart. For a brief instant, Sangho froze, stunned by what he was seeing. The beast collapsed, piece by piece, its massive frame falling slowly into ruin. The assault on the nine-tailed fox had raged through the entire night. Now it was over. Back in the dim glow of the bar, Sangho gently set down his glass, the liquid still trembling inside. His hand fell limp against the counter. "At the very end," he said slowly, "when we finally succeeded in that expedition, amidst all the screams, I heard crying." His gaze drifted somewhere far away, back into memory. He saw again the image of a small fox cub writhing weakly within the body of the fallen mother. A cub? He had whispered in disbelief. The story pressed on. The eagle that gentleman released it had hunted down the cub while the mother was away from the nest. Pure animal instinct. It found something helpless. Defenseless. Sangho tipped back another swallow of soju before concluding bitterly, it must have been a mistake. Even people like him make mistakes, but us, he slammed the glass down firmly. We cannot afford mistakes like that. Hyolho's brow furrowed. A cub, there really was one. Sangho's eyes flickered, avoiding the question. Yeah. Unfortunately, we put it down. In the end, there was no other choice. That's how the nine-tailed fox incident ended. You probably remember 2 years ago, it was all over the radio and the papers. Hyolho's voice softened. I think you made the right call. A thin, embarrassed laugh escaped Sangho. You think so? Pushing himself up from the seat, he gave a small, polite bow. I've gone on too long, said more than I should have. Funny thing is, I feel lighter now. Maybe it's just the soju. Haven't touched the stuff in ages. Sorry about that. He turned, making for the door. I'll be off then. Bring me the bill, would you? Ah, and one more thing. Pack me up some sashimi, same as before. Of course, Chilho replied gently. Outside, the night had deepened. Darkness pressed close, save for a sprawl of stars and a scattering of heavy black clouds. Hands buried in his pockets, Sangho walked on, slow and steady, disappearing into the night. Sangho walked with his brow furrowed, thoughts heavy. In his memory, his voice was sharp with rage. You maniac. You dared touch a mystical being, just a cub. Are you out of your mind? The man had bowed his head, contrite. I'm sorry, it was a mistake. The words only made Sangho's fury boil hotter. A mistake. You think that word fixes everything. Because of you, dozens nearly died. What if it had happened in the middle of the city, in a crowded neighborhood? What then? Back in the present, he had stopped walking. His head dipped low, shadows hiding the grief in his eyes. There was something in his gaze, remorse, self-condemnation that weighed heavier than anger ever could. Alone in the darkness, Sangho resumed his slow, solitary march. Elsewhere, Chilo gazed out through the window, lost in thought. The nine-tailed fox, he remembered it not as rumor, but as something he himself had once encountered back on the continent of Espen, in that other world. His mind drifted deeper. They weren't like the monsters who invaded under the Demon King's banner. No, these creatures were gentle toward humans. In the eastern lands, there was even a saying, bow 3 times when passing the mountains under the nine-tailed fox's protection. And yet, I hunted 2 of them. And I regretted it. Both times. In his memory, the image burned bright, a magnificent fox collapsing beneath the point of his blade. Whether it was Chilho or Sangho hardly mattered anymore, the weight of those memories felt the same. Certain scars never faded. Meanwhile, Sangho had stopped by the roadside, setting down the bag of food he carried. His voice came in a hoarse whisper. They stay with you like invisible scars. Like screams you can't quite hear. Then, suddenly, his eyes widened in shock. From the night sky, 3 blazing fireballs descended slowly toward him, crackling as they drew closer. And in that moment, it was as though every unshakable memory, every regret, every scar had circled back to him at once, demanding to be remembered. 3 glowing orbs appeared right in front of Kim Sang-hoo. A heavy paw stepped forward toward him. It was the nine-tailed fox. With each step, it let out a low cry. Kim Sang-hoo frowned the moment he saw it, thinking to himself, I can't kill it. He remembered the first time he'd encountered it when it was injured. Back then, too, I couldn't bring myself to kill it. Holding out food toward the nine-tailed fox, his thoughts churned. Was it because of those desperate eyes it had when it was on the verge of death? I don't know. I just didn't want to kill it. He propped his chin on his hand and sighed. I'm not fit to be a protector. Not at all. Kim Sang-hoo finally spoke. So, how many mana crystals have you stolen to already have 3 tails? There was even an article about it. You know that. The nine-tailed fox tilted its head in confusion but paid him little mind, continuing to eat. Frustrated, Kim Sang-hoo grabbed it by the scruff of its neck, despite its fierce resistance. The creature glared at him with fiery eyes. As it tried to lash out, he said firmly, listen carefully. His voice turned grave. I can't turn a blind eye to this any longer. The association will step in soon. Leave the city. Find a quiet place. Live in peace. He threw the nine-tailed fox down and barked, go. It let out a plaintive cry, as if trying to hold on to him, and he winced at the sound. With a sharp motion, he struck the air to intimidate it, startling the fox. Go on, kid. Get out of here. Watching it finally run off, Kim Sang-hoo muttered with relief. Yeah, that's it. He stood alone in the darkness. Go. Hurry. The nine-tailed fox leapt swiftly across the rooftops. Suddenly, a noise caught its attention. It turned out to be Kyul, banging on the glass window to call it over. Kyle pushed the window open and chirped, Apapa, Yumuru, Yumuru. The nine-tailed fox brushed its paw against Kyle's cheek. His skin was soft, and in the fox's mind, anything soft and harmless must surely be a friend. It played around, making little gestures that made Kyul clap his hands in delight. Just then, Kang Chil-ho stepped through the door. So it's you. The nine-tailed fox, startled, darted behind the door to hide. Chil-ho lifted Kyul into his arms and addressed the fox. No wonder I sensed fox spirit energy from behind the mountain. You hungry? Want something to eat? The creature shook its head. Chil-ho narrowed his eyes and reasoned, guess you've already eaten somewhere else. He then called out, Kasim. A man entered, bowing respectfully. Greetings, Lord Kang Chil-ho Nim, as always. What brings me here this time? Noticing the fox, he added, is that a nine-tailed fox? A young one? Chil-ho gave a short nod. Yeah, just grab one of the mana crystals over there. Kasim promptly fetched one. Here you go, Lord Kang Chil-ho Nim. Chil-ho placed the mana crystal into the young fox's mouth. A first-grade mana crystal. That'll help with your growth. The nine-tailed fox bit down, cracking the mana crystal. It swallowed the fragment, and its entire body began to glow with radiant light. Kang Chil-ho waved it off. That's enough. Go on, get out of here. The fox leapt away in a flash. Behind it, little Kyul waved cheerfully, bidding the creature farewell. The nine-tailed fox perched atop a tall post. Its thoughts were heavy. Soft things, harmless things. Even if you pointed a spear at me, I'd still know you were kind. Its eyes welled up with tears. But I won't get to see you again, will I? Meanwhile, Kim Sang-hoo lay on his back, staring up at the sky. The city at night was no longer as bright as it once had been, quiet now, shadowed and somber. In a place like this, the fox's flames would shine brilliantly, impossible to ignore. He whispered in his heart, as if to the creature itself, so don't come back. Live well. Seoul, Yongsan. The Korean Awakeners Association, registering new awakeners, confirming awakened status, preventing civilian casualties, managing recovery efforts, patrols, and countless other duties. 5 second-rank awakeners had been officially appointed as guardians: the Ice Witch, the Mage, the Swordsman Kim Sang-hoo, the Gentleman, and the Sword Queen. Alongside them, 3 first-rank awakeners were dispatched on special assignments, all of it under the command of the association. At the head of the organization stood Yu Jinsu, chairman of the Korean Awakeners Association. Cheon, Yu Jinsu complained, wiping sweat from his brow, it's too damn hot. Ji Chae-yeon replied calmly. Well, it is summer. Should I make some ice for you? She was none other than the witch of Sinchon, Ji Chae-yeon, a high-ranking guardian. No. Yu Jinsu waved her off, chuckling. Summer's supposed to be hot anyway. Still, the mandragoras have disappeared, haven't they? Yes, sir, she answered. Mandragora. A plant-type monster that lived buried deep underground. When threatened, it secreted a potent toxin that required a special antidote dangerous enough to cover a full 1-kilometer radius. That alone was why it was classified as a monster. Even with antidotes on hand, destroying a mandragora was a nightmare. A brute one. And it would scream loud enough to instantly kill low-rank awakeners or ordinary people. Worse, it would scatter its seeds, spreading the danger further. Extreme caution was mandatory. Ji Chae-yeon reported, 13 mandragoras have vanished completely. No traces of entry or exit. The circumstances are so strange that the only conclusion anyone can reach is that they simply disappeared on their own. Yu Jinsu let out a short laugh. What vegetables growing legs and running off? Helpless, she sighed. Otherwise, the only explanation is that they melted away. The chairman's face returned to a stern mask. First things first, it's too hot out here. Let's go inside. I'll summon Gabi. Discuss the matter with her. Goodbye? Ji Chae-yeon raised an eyebrow. You mean Lee Gabi? The shadow cat. She's back. That's right, Yu Jinsu confirmed. She returned last night. She hasn't been dispatched yet, so I'll assign her to investigate this case first. Her tone turned cold, though respectful. Understood. Thank you, Chairman. Keel stretched his little arms. Kukuryu, he was wondering where Kan had gone. Then his attention shifted to Kang Chil-ho, who was grimacing in pain. Keel reached out and patted his forehead. Pa. A faint mark was left on Chil-ho's brow, making the child giggle. Kururo. Suddenly Kyle's stomach growled loudly. Embarrassed, he flushed red and hugged his belly. Peepam. So the little one dragged a chair over, trying to find something to eat. Kyle clambered up, struggling to pull open the refrigerator, but each time he jumped he ended up slipping and falling. At last he managed to tug the fridge door open. Inside sat a mandragora. Kyle grabbed it in his tiny hands, assuming it was just something that belonged to the old man. The mandragora suddenly let out a piercing shriek. It turned out that Kuehl, thinking it was food, had popped it straight into his mouth. But since it wasn't edible, he spat it back out, leaving the creature's head dripping with his saliva. Kang Chil-ho, who had just woken up, groaned at the sight. "You little brat," he watched Kuehl, who had already devoured every bit of food in the house, and was now napping soundly in the chair. Chil-ho muttered, "So when did he even wake up? I swear, I need to give this kid a proper scolding." Kan, equally shocked, blurted out, "No way. Don't tell me he ate everything." Chil-ho picked Kuehl up and looked him over, shaking his head in disbelief. "Looks like it. Unbelievable. This kid is more dangerous than he looks. But more importantly, Kan, where have you been running off to lately?" Kan answered matter-of-factly, "I've been investigating the conditions that lead to spatial rifts forming, visiting sites where dungeons have appeared." Chil-ho chuckled, well, diligent, aren't you? So any discoveries?" Kan scratched his cheek awkwardly. "Nothing. I only found plenty of monsters that are common back on the continent of Espen." Chil-ho's eyes narrowed. "Monsters, huh?" Then he paused, his expression turning thoughtful. "But wait, you're not a monster yourself, right?" Kan's eyes flared with anger. "How dare you? Dragons are a great and noble race. How could you ever lump us in with such filthy creatures?" Chil-ho frowned, mind racing. "So that means, at the very least, dragons or perhaps something even more terrifying could emerge from these spatial rifts." He turned back to Kan. "If you see anything strange during your investigation, you'd better tell me as well." Kan grunted. "Fine. I'll do that." Then, curious, he asked, "But Chil-ho, you've already reached the rank of 6th class Grandmaster. Doesn't that mean you should be able to control these rifts by now?" Chil-ho shook his head. "I can't. I don't even know who created them, or why they appear at all." Kan pressed further. "Then how did you even return to this world?" Chil-ho closed his eyes. "That's a long story. It took decades even after we defeated the Demon King. The first'll tell you someday, over drinks." Fine, Kan replied. Chil-ho glanced at the now empty pantry, completely cleaned out thanks to Kuehl. "Looks like I'll need to go shopping today." Kan's face brightened. "Good idea. When it's summer, there's only one dish worth having." On the outskirts of Sinchen, the area was sealed beneath a protective dome. Ji Chae-yeon knelt, carefully examining the ground. "Just as I thought. No traces at all." She stood and sighed. "They told me to come here, but there's nothing." Suddenly, a faint streak of green light shimmered above her head. She immediately summoned her magic, energy crackling around her. And then a hand gently brushed against her cheek. Startled, she turned. It was Lee Gabi. "Oh," Gabi said softly. "So you're the Ice Witch of Sinchen, aren't you?" After finishing her inspection and coming to a conclusion, she glanced around one last time, but there truly wasn't a single clue to be found. That woman was none other than Lee Gabi, the first rank awakened known as the Shadow Cat. Ji Chae-yeon cautiously stepped forward to greet her. "Hello, Miss Shadow Cat, I'm but," Gabi cut in with a warm smile. "Why call me that? Just call me sister. You're pretty cute, you know." "Are you a rookie?" Chae-yeon hesitated, fidgeting nervously. "Why yes, my codename back at Cipher Academy is." Gabi waved her hand reassuringly. "No need to be so tense, relax. How long have you been doing this job, anyway?" It's my 10th year already," Chae-yeon admitted awkwardly. "Not bad," Gabi said with an approving nod. But inside, her thoughts were spinning. Impossible. Because Chae-yeon realized something alarming. She had just walked straight through a sealed barrier without detecting any sign of disturbance. Is this woman really just a first-rank awakened? And there was more that didn't add up. According to Cipher's records, anyone trained at that level would have been a top-ranking operative 30 years ago. So why does she look so young? Breaking the silence, Gabi tilted her head and spoke first. "I've met other guardians before, but you must be new." "Nice to meet you. I'm Lee Gabi." I'm Chae-yeon," she stammered. There, Bi said soothingly, as if comforting a child. Then, slipping effortlessly back into business, she asked, "So what's the situation?" Chae-yeon quickly reported. "Yes, after the detonation incident ended, 13 Mandragora disappeared. We locked down the area thoroughly. But there are no signs of intrusion or even a struggle. Gabai crouched, studied the ground once more, and nodded. That's what I saw too. Which raises the question, who broke through the barrier? It was a member of our squad, Che-yan explained. A fourth rank awakened. Then whoever bypassed a rank 4 barrier without leaving a trace, Gaby's eyes narrowed. They'd have to be at least rank 3. Which means, she straightened and gave her order. Start by tracking mercenary activity around Central Seoul. She tapped her chin thoughtfully before asking, where's the nearest large mercenary group? The Temple Mercenary Corps, based in Seodaemun, Che-yan answered. Perfect. Let's head there first. I'm starving. We'll eat while we work. And Gaby smirked. We might just run into that punk I always butt heads with. Oh right, make sure he buys us meat. Meanwhile, in a room bathed in warm light, Kan was utterly lost in affection. He cradled the sleeping Keel in his arms, planting soft kisses over and over. His heart felt like it was melting. So cute. So precious, he whispered, unable to stop himself. Still gazing at the little one, Kan murmured with a blissful smile, Our Keel, who do you take after to be this adorable? You really do look just like me. All of a sudden, Kan felt a pair of eyes boring into him. Flustered, he snapped, Hey you. How long have you been watching? Kang Chil-ho answered flatly, from start to finish. Kan's face turned bright red. Damn it. Watching him squirm only deepened Chil-ho's confusion. I don't see what's wrong with doting on your little sister. Isn't it natural? That only made Kan burn hotter with embarrassment. Switching topics, Chil-ho pointed toward the corner. Fill that big pot with water. Kan tilted his head. What's that for? This is called a watermelon, Chil-ho explained, holding up the striped fruit. You've never seen one back on the Espen continent? No, first time. Kan peered at the juicy red flesh. That red part, is it meat? Of course not, Chil-ho chuckled. I'd call it fruit, though apparently it's technically classified as a vegetable. Kan grabbed something else off the counter. Then what's this thing doing here? That, Chil-ho said casually, is a common livestock animal here. It's called a chicken. Kan frowned. Tech, don't insult me. I know what a chicken is. They exist on Espen too, you know. Chil-ho added with a smirk. But when Kan caught sight of what Chil-ho was holding next, his eyes went wide. Wait, is that a mandragora? I just went out for a walk and saw it, Chil-ho replied nonchalantly. So I pulled it up. Kan nearly choked. Are you insane? That's not the kind of thing you just rip out on a whim. But Chil-ho was already mulling over its properties. Mandragoras absorb heat energy and cool the body. Crunchy texture, subtly sweet flavor, versatile enough for both hot and cold dishes. Yes, he murmured to himself. Perfect for a summer recipe. Kan blinked in disbelief. And why are you stuffing things inside the chicken? Ignoring him, Chil-ho muttered the list like an incantation. Glutinous rice, garlic, mandragora, green onions. After preparing everything, he lowered the chicken gently into the simmering pot. Now we just wait a little while. Then the samgyetang will be ready. At that very moment, a voice called from outside, cheerful and impressed. Oh wow, so there's a restaurant here after all. Cheon was the first to greet them with a polite bow. Hello. Lee Gabi, however, took a deep breath, savoring the aroma. That smells incredible. Chil-ho smiled warmly. Welcome. Kan, startled by the sudden guests, stammered awkwardly, hello. Kim Sang-ho stepped forward. My apologies. I may have brought a few too many people today. His eyes wandered to Kan, who was standing nervously to the side. Are you, an employee here? Chil-ho replied with his usual courtesy, having guests at a restaurant is always a good thing. He's one of our cooks. Then, with a host's confidence, he offered, we just finished preparing some samgyetang. Would you like to try it? Sang-ho's face lit up. Samgyetang, isn't that made with chicken? It's been so long since I've had chicken. At the mention of food, even Gaby's attention perked up only for her to sigh dramatically. Please excuse me. I'm a vegetarian. Chil-ho gave a thoughtful nod. In that case, a short while later, he laid the dishes on the table, steaming bowls of samgyetang, and a side of mandragora kimchi. The presentation alone left Sang-ho speechless. Cheon tasted first, sprinkling just a pinch of salt before tearing into a fragrant chicken drumstick. Her eyes widened. Delicious. Sang-ho crunched into the kimchi, then leaned back with a grin. This is the crispest, most refreshing kimchi I've ever had. Truly amazing. Watching them savor every bite, Gabi's lips tightened with longing. It really did look mouth-watering. Chil-ho noticed her hesitation and approached. Miss Gabi, you're vegetarian, aren't you? She nodded. Yes. Unless you actually know how to make something meatless. He chuckled softly. I wouldn't say I'm well versed in vegetarian dishes. But as it happens, I do have a watermelon. Would you like to try it? Her eyes brightened. Watermelon? Yes, please. Holding the fruit in his hands, Chil-ho thought to himself, there are so many ways to enjoy watermelon sliced fresh, frozen, or blended into a smoothie. After considering the options, he made his choice. Today I'll try something a little different. He began by cutting the ripe flesh into neat, bite-sized pieces. Then, reaching for more fruit, he mused, adding other fruits makes it even better. Personally, I like pairing it with berries or kiwi. He sliced them up and tossed them in. After picking out the fruit, Kang Chil-ho finished the last step. He topped it off with a splash of Sprite. When he brought the dish out, Ji Chae-yeon's eyes widened in surprise. It's a fruit platter. Lee Gabi leaned closer, delighted. That looks so refreshing. Watermelon fruit salad. Her gaze lingered on the chilled slices, and she couldn't help but exclaim, in that case add a little ice, too. At that moment Chil-ho noticed something. She's an awakened. Kim Sang-ho confirmed it aloud. She's the Ice Witch, the guardian of Sinchon. The title made Chaeyeon flinch. I don't really like that name. Honestly, I hate any kind of honorific in front of my name. But witch is even worse. She went on, her tone tinged with old regret. Back at Shiver Academy, they had this annual battle to the death. I walked right into my opponent's trap and ended up revealing my ultimate technique. I tried to keep my composure, but in the end it just looked like a colossal mistake. Her voice grew heavier with memory. I really messed that one up. Meanwhile, Chil-ho thought to himself, looks like heavy hitters just keep showing up one after another. And more than that, he couldn't shake the impression. From the moment she arrived, she radiated presence, the bearing of a guardian, maybe even stronger. On top of it all, she was stunningly beautiful. The first time I've seen someone like this since the continent of Espan. As she continued to eat, she kept praising the food between bites. Thank you for the meal. He, in turn, found himself silently admiring her. She's breathtaking. When the meal was over, Chil-ho and Kan moved to clear the tables. Kan muttered almost dreamily, that girl who just walked out, she's gorgeous. Chil-ho agreed without hesitation. Lee Gabi really is beautiful. But Kan frowned, almost troubled. No, she's too beautiful to be human. She doesn't even feel human. Chil-ho nodded slowly, you're right. Then he explained matter-of-factly, she's an elf. Alignment neutral. Class, arcane speed. Mastery advanced. Learning aptitude high. Kan stared at him, skeptical. Even if that's true, how do you know? Don't tell me you're not human either. Chil-ho answered calmly, I confirmed it using appraisal. Arcane speed is a class only elves can possess. Still uneasy, Kan pressed, but elves usually have pointed ears, don't they? You think she noticed us? Chil-ho shook his head. No. She has no ability to detect magic. Kang Chil-ho thought to himself, just as I suspected. It isn't only monsters that cross through dimensional gates. There could be other races, too, living here on Earth, blending in with humans like this. Another thought crossed his mind. Or maybe some of them are concealing their true forms, pretending to be something else. But his eyes lit up with a sudden idea. Kan, he called out sharply, making the boy jump. I'm gonna whip up something unusual to eat, Chil-ho announced. Kan perked up instantly. Hey, what can I do? Grab a spoon, Chil-ho instructed. We're making watermelon juice. Deep down, he resolved. Let's enjoy this life just a little more. Outside the restaurant, she looked dejected. Another dead end. Just another fake lead. One of the team speculated. If that pit vanished without leaving a trace, should we consider the possibility that mandragoras simply disappear as part of some new ecological cycle? She snapped back, irritated. Who is this kid, and what the hell is he even talking about? Kim Sang-ho tried to reason it out. I'm not saying it's meaningless, but there's no evidence, is there? No witnesses, no victims. Come on, who would casually go around uprooting mandragoras? Does that make any sense? In this country no one could do that without being noticed. Not even by birds, not even by rats. Ji Che-yan countered firmly. If even a rank one awakened like Shadowcat investigated and still found nothing, then the answer must lie somewhere unexpected. Besides, with 3 barrier wards and our squad monitoring within a 1-kilometer radius, there's no way something slipped out without us detecting it. Unconvinced, the young man muttered in frustration, "Who knows, maybe someone just ate them all." At that moment, someone among them noticed the night air was unusually cold for summer. Li Gabi felt it too. Suspicious. Definitely suspicious. No evidence. Everything's quiet for now, but something is happening in this city, she thought grimly. Finally, she spoke up. "All right. I'll report this to headquarters and hand it over to the researchers." She also complained that even the Temple Mercenary Corps had shown up, yet they hadn't provided any useful information for the investigation, just a handful of shocking tidbits. Kim Sang-hoo grew thoughtful when Li Gabi mentioned them. They said that old man Qian Taijong from Temple had retired. He remembered Qian Taijong as a mysterious elder, always pictured with a lighter in his hand. One evening, beneath a star-filled night sky, the scene had been almost serene. The heavens above looked no different from what he used to see back home long ago. But the world itself had changed. Where trees once grew, buildings now stood, and asphalt roads smothered the earth where grass had thrived. This land, once filled with the fragrance of blossoms, had become nothing more than a battlefield drenched in the blood of monsters. And now, he was weary. Then Qian Tajuang had appeared on a high platform, promising safety to the survivors. He shouted for the ordeal to end, and below him, the mercenaries echoed in unison, "An end to this catastrophe." At that moment, Kang Chil-ho folded the newspaper with a leisurely air, softly humming to himself as a faint, relaxed smile spread across his face. Kyle came toddling over, its tiny claws tugging at his leg, as it chirped out in a sweet, broken call, "Pei." Pa. Pei looked down, chuckled, and bent to scoop the little one into his arms. "Awake already, huh?" he said gently. Kyle's big, round eyes instantly fixated on the newspaper, and it tried to mimic the words it saw, babbling "Weya, third today." Chil-ho played along with an encouraging smile. "Today's weather very good." Kyle beamed and tried again with a little more confidence. "Warm sky," he patiently corrected it, still speaking tenderly. "It's warm weather." But just as Kyle was beginning to enjoy the rhythm of practicing, its tiny stomach let out a loud gurgle cutting the lesson short. The little one turned its head, eyes sparkling, and whimpered with innocent eagerness, "Peepa, Kyururu, Kururu." Chil-ho couldn't help but laugh softly, running a hand through Kyul's hair. "All right, just give me a moment." Then, as if to himself, he mused, "What should we have for breakfast today? I always find myself wondering about that. If we're going to eat, it ought to be something good." Looking at Kyle's dazed little face, he thought to himself, "Life is short, and you only get 3 good meals a day." Then he let out a soft ah. Chil-ho pinched the round cheeks and teased, "Ah, but for you, I guess your life can hardly be called short." After pondering for a moment, he decided, "Then let's just cook plain rice." Sure, mixed grain rice is healthier, but the effect on the body isn't significant enough. He set Kyle down and gently instructed, "Go wake up your brother now. But be gentle." Kyle trotted off obediently, humming "Papa, Appa" with careful little steps. Kyle ran toward Kan, who was sticking out his tongue in sleep. Excitedly, the child let out a loud "Kyururu," and then leapt high into the air, right in front of Kan's drooling face. She landed directly on him, making Kan scream at the top of his lungs, "Oh ah." Outside, Chil-ho just watched and laughed helplessly. Later, Chil-ho finished preparing a hearty Korean-style breakfast, mixed rice with vegetables and bento eggs. Without hesitation, Kan grabbed a spoon, eyes shining. This is amazing. How is it so delicious?" Seeing this, Chil-ho said, "Quick, stir it well. Leave it to me." Once the mixture was evenly combined, Chil-ho declared, "All set, let's eat." The moment they took their first bites, their faces lit up with pure joy at tasting something so delicious. After a while, not a scrap was left. Kan exclaimed, "I feel like my stomach's going to explode." Noticing that Kyle was quieter than usual, Chil-ho asked, "Kan, the little one's been acting a bit strange these past few days, just eating and sleeping. Is that normal?" Kan smiled faintly and replied, tapping Kyle's sleepy face, "Meme? Ah, that's normal. She's 3 months old now." At this age, it's common to just eat and sleep as she grows. It's all part of the process. Then thought to himself with a trace of amusement, so it's actually possible to tell which class it was born into just by watching. Interesting. All of a sudden, a voice rang out, snapping him out of his thoughts. Good morning, boss. Turning his head, he saw Kim Man-ho stepping through the door. Oh, welcome, Chil-ho greeted warmly. But before Man-ho had even fully entered, he sniffed the air and exclaimed, that smells amazing. I just finished cooking, Chil-ho said evenly. Would you like to try some? Man-ho nodded right away. Sure. But I'll order some ramen too. And rice if possible. With a small smile, Chil-ho suggested. Cold rice actually pairs better. Oh, you're right about that. Man-ho laughed heartily. Ramen and cold rice, that's a perfect match. As he reached for the newspaper on the counter, something caught his eye. Huh? He muttered in surprise. The front page showed a familiar face, Cheon Ta-jung, the leader of Temple, with headlines about his looming retirement. The air in the diner seemed strangely still for a moment. Then suddenly, from inside Chil-ho's kitchen, a loud, awed voice erupted. Oh my god. It was Man-ho, savoring his first bite. This kimchi is out of this world. The ramen and rice are great. But this radish kimchi, this is on another level. Chil-ho smirked proudly. Well, of course. It's made with mandragora. Just then, Choi Jae-woo stepped inside, greeting both men. Good morning, boss. Good morning, Mr. Kim Man-ho. Recognizing him, Man-ho asked casually. Oh hey. You came to eat too? Jae-woo gave an awkward smile. Not exactly. I didn't have time for breakfast, so I thought I'd just drop by and say hello. I see, Chil-ho replied softly. You've been working hard. The weather must be pretty hot out there, it is summer after all. Jae-woo looked a bit flustered but managed a small laugh. Thanks, but I can handle it. Then, puffing his chest a little, he added smugly, maybe it's because my stamina's been better lately. Probably from eating here so often, huh? Chil-ho thought to himself, that's the mandragora working. Suddenly, Jae-woo shifted the subject. By the way, Mr. Kim Sang-hoo's been pretty stressed out lately, hasn't he? Man-ho sighed. Yeah, our captain really has been under a lot of pressure. He glanced at Chil-ho's curious expression before continuing. But have you heard the news about Temple? Apparently Captain Cheon Taejong is going to retire. That's why everyone's so tense. Retire? Chil-ho asked in surprise. With regret, yes, Man-ho said solemnly. Our captain respects him deeply. It's a real loss. What happened? Chil-ho pressed, intrigued. Man-ho's entire body stiffened slightly. He lowered his voice. Well, it goes back to the incident 10 years ago. When the monsters invaded Seodaemon. You could call it a full-scale invasion. Honestly, just remembering it makes me sick. Each word left Chil-ho more and more stunned. That year was the very first year warrior Kim Sang-hoo took command, Man-ho went on. Back then, 4 out of Seoul's 5 guardians sacrificed themselves trying to stop the invasion. It was brutal. And Cheon Taejong? Though he was officially classified as a level 3 awakened, his abilities went far beyond that. He was a born leader. A battlefield commander in every sense. During that invasion he was the savior of Seodaemon. Countless lives were spared because of him. That's why so many people admire and revere him to this day. At that very moment far away, Association President Yu Jinsu frowned at the same newspaper headline and muttered to himself, I knew this day would come. But still, President Yu Jinsu suddenly stopped mid-sentence, his gaze shifting toward the sound of a knock at the door. He called out evenly, come in. The door opened, and stepping through was none other than Cheon Ta-jung. His expression was calm as ever as he offered a polite greeting. It's been a while, President. Jinsu gestured to the seat across from him. Please have a seat. Let's talk properly. After Taejung settled in and took a quiet sip of water, Jinsu asked, his tone cautious yet heavy. Are you truly planning to retire? Of course, Taejung replied without hesitation. Jinsu's voice trembled. But why? Because, Taejung said evenly, his face showing no trace of conflict, the time has simply come. That unflinching composure ignited something in Jinsu. He slammed his palm on the desk, his voice rising in anger. Don't you feel even a shred of regret? The temple unit, that's the very squad you built from nothing with your own hands. When Taejong remained silent, Jinsu's frustration boiled over. After everything you've endured, from the very first day you set foot in Seoul, I've witnessed every hardship you've shouldered since then. Only then did Taejong carefully set his cup down. His voice deepened. Listen closely, President. His face grew solemn, his words heavy with conviction. There is nothing in this world that can be achieved by one person alone. Everything we have today exists because countless people played their part. You and I as well. And I firmly believe there will always be others willing to keep fighting for this world in the future. He lowered his gaze, his tone softening. But as for me, I am tired. I want to finally lay down this burden that has weighed on my shoulders for so long. With that, Taejong rose to his feet. I have matters to attend to. Until next time. He walked away, leaving Jinsu standing alone in silence. As the door closed behind him, Jinsu exhaled a weary sigh. That boy Sanggu, this will hit him hard. Meanwhile, Taejong's thoughts turned inward. I've already chosen my successor, Kang Hyuk. Just 30 years old, a talented awakened of the third rank, with great potential to advance even further. Lifting his head, he gazed at the late afternoon sky and murmured with surprising gentleness, "What a beautiful day." A sharp, mocking voice immediately cut through the moment. "Beautiful. What's so perfect about it? You're starting to sound senile." Turning, Taejong found Kim Sang-ho waiting there, though he couldn't recall when he had arrived. Elsewhere, in a much calmer scene, our protagonist Kang Cheol-ho was quietly slicing tofu with practiced ease. The door opened once more. "Welcome," he called out. Taejong's deep, warm voice followed. "I don't recall there being a restaurant like this here before." From beside him, Sang-ho chuckled. "Ha! I told you there was." As the imposing figure stepped inside, Cheol-ho bowed his head slightly. "Please come in," Sang-ho asked with a smile. "So what's on the menu today?" "Just some home-style dishes," Cheol-ho replied evenly. "Home-style dishes, huh?" Sang-ho echoed, intrigued. Then he turned toward Taejong. "Well, old friend? What do you think?" "It's fine," Taejong answered calmly. Seeing the easy familiarity between them, Cheol-ho thought to himself, "They must be about my age." His eyes lingered on Taejong. A veteran. That word fits him perfectly. Aloud, he said, "This meal takes a bit of time to prepare. Would either of you be in a hurry?" Taejong shook his head slightly, his voice steady but carrying a weight of finality. "No, I'm not busy anymore. So take your time." Hearing that answer, Cheol-ho smiled gently. "All right then." Out of nowhere, Kim Sang-ho spoke up. I was just showing him the way. Only the old man's eating today. I'll be taking my leave, I've still got work to do." As his figure disappeared out the door, Taejong lowered his voice. "Sorry about that. The kid still doesn't quite understand things yet." Cheol-ho shook his head. "There's no need to apologize. After all, he's still a guardian." With that, Taejong lit a cigarette, the flame briefly reflecting in his eyes. "When did that kid grow up so much?" he muttered, almost to himself. Then he suddenly realized. My apologies. Is smoking allowed here?" Cheol-ho answered calmly. "It's fine, as long as there aren't other guests. Please make yourself comfortable." From the pot simmering away, a fragrant steam rose and filled the room. Taejong's eyes lingered on it, curiosity flickering across his face. "That smell," Cheol-ho looked puzzled. "Huh? I mean the scent of freshly cooked rice," Taejong explained, his voice softening. "It's been such a long time since I've smelled that. It's really something." There was a deep, almost wistful tone in his voice, as if the fragrance had pulled open an old, hidden drawer of memories. Cheol-ho repeated softly, as though testing the word on his tongue, "Memories, everyone must have something they carry in their memory," he thought. "Maybe tonight, I should make that dish doonyang jiga." Every household had its own recipe, its own unique flavor. His way was simple, keep it rustic yet full-bodied. He would let the soybean paste and vegetables simmer slowly, without broth, letting the flavors thicken naturally. Though the taste wasn't as sharp, the stew gained a hearty, rich texture, and the warmth of the doenjang aroma would spread instantly through the air. To accompany it, he prepared bento eggs and grilled mackerel. In no time at all, a bountiful Korean-style meal was laid out before Taejong, a complete, generous spread. The sight of it made Taejong's eyes widen in astonishment. Carefully, he ladled a spoonful of stew and tasted it. The very first sip made his eyes light up. His entire body froze for an instant, overcome by the depth of the flavor. This. He quickly scooped up a spoonful of steaming white rice and took a bite. His expression softened, happiness breaking through in his face. His voice trembled slightly as he whispered, "Delicious. It tastes exactly like my mother's cooking back home." He continued quietly, his tone heavy with nostalgia. "It's been nearly 30 years. The memories faint, but back then, that was when I first came up to Seoul to make a living." Kil-ho nodded empathetically. "It really has been a long time, hasn't it?" Taejung let out a deep breath, his chopsticks pausing midair. "Yes, thinking about it now, it's been so long. Time, it really does fly. Feels like it all passed in the blink of an eye." His gaze turned distant, his voice carrying the weight of years. "In those days I thought I'd return home before long. But everyone was flocking to Seoul then. Everyone struggling, just trying to survive." Memory stirred as if rising to the surface after being submerged for decades. His voice grew somber. "I'll never forget it. The era of mass evacuations, 30 years ago." The images played vividly in his mind, the chaos, the fear interwoven to the devastation of another memory, and then the great invasion 10 years ago. At that point in the story, Cheon Taejung's voice lowered, heavy with memory. "Yes, that was during the time of the mass evacuation. Fragments of the past surfaced, vivid and raw. The first wave of monsters, 30 years ago. Entire nations and cities wiped out, erased from the map." As the images of ruined streets and devastated people filled his mind, his tone sank even further. "I was in danger back in my hometown," Taejung recalled, "and by chance, I stumbled across a sword. That's when I realized I had awakened. I could wield that sword as if it were part of me, and my body grew stronger, sharper, faster." He paused, exhaling slowly before continuing. "After that I made a decision. I gathered every awakened I could find back home, and I led them to Seoul. I believed, if the strong gathered together, then maybe just maybe we could protect everyone." He looked down, lost in thought, then spoke again. "That was the beginning of the force we came to call temple." His expression turned solemn, his voice dropping to a grave murmur. "When the awakened united, people began to return. The city was rebuilt little by little, the world slowly stitched itself back into some kind of order. From there, the role of guardians was born." He inhaled deeply, then continued. Then gave a dry laugh. "This country may still be called Korea, but as you can see, in truth it has shrunk down to nothing more than the central districts of Seoul." Taejung tapped the ash from his cigarette. "And just as people were beginning to adapt to this changed world, the event 10 years ago happened. The day a monster, classified as level B, attacked the city. The Great Invasion." His words dragged the memory back, sharp and unforgiving. That day, Kim Sang-woo stood frozen in terror, certain he would die from the incoming strike. In desperation, he drew his sword and blocked, his voice breaking in panic. "It's too strong." Before the overwhelming might of the dragon's assault, sweat drenched his skin, cold and clammy. "I can't defeat this thing alone. If this keeps up, I'll die here." At the very brink of despair, Sang-woo clenched his eyes shut. I don't want to die." And then at that very moment a broad-shouldered man surged forward, his blade cleaving the air with terrifying force. Blood ran down his hand, dripping onto the hilt, but he still raised it high. "Get up, kid." Sang-woo's body trembled violently at the sight. The man's voice was steady, unwavering. "You must be terrified right now." That blood-streaked hand reached toward him, firm and commanding. "You're panicking. You want to run. But it's in this moment that you have to move forward. If you back down now, you'll live the rest of your life knowing only retreat." Shaking, Sang-woo grabbed hold of the man's hand. My name is Kim Sang-woo." Recognition flashed in Taejung's eyes. "Ah, so you're the one who was just appointed guardian," Sang-woo stammered, his voice cracking. "Yes sir. Behind you, look, behind you." In an instant Taejung's face hardened, killing intent radiating from his very presence. He lifted his sword. "Watch closely, young guardian." With no hesitation, Taejung unleashed his strike. His blade blazed with power, aura raging like a storm, and he hurled himself at the dragon's furious roar. One clean, merciless swing. The edge pierced its thick armor and split its massive body into two. The dragon's fate was sealed. Without pause, Taejung's sword danced again and again, each movement a blur of precision and brutality until the beast was nothing more than torn fragments raining to the ground. When the battle was finally over, his arm was torn and bloodied, yet Tajung held it calmly and simply said, "Here." Under the glow of the light, his face broke into a bright smile. His voice rang out with steady conviction, "This is the path we carved with our own hands." The sight of that man, standing tall in his moment of glory, left Sang Hu frozen in awe. His breath caught before a hushed gasp escaped him. That memory of Tajung etched itself deep into Sang Hu's heart, a moment he could never forget, a memory too vivid to ever fade. Later, lost in thought amid the silence, Sang Hu whispered to himself, almost like a confession, "It's so peaceful here, uncle." Then came the sound of footsteps as he turned and began to walk away. Running now, spear in hand, he raised his voice with determination, "No monster must be allowed to appear here. This place must remain safe." But suddenly Sang Hu froze. His eyes darted around, scanning the area. This is the place where he once stood. The place he could finally rest. His brows furrowed in grief. "This is all I can do now. I have to repay the man who saved my life." He fought to wipe away the tears he had held back for so long, but they spilled out regardless. Damn it, reason could no longer hold him together. He collapsed to his knees, breaking down completely. Why? Why isn't there a single monster here? Beneath the bright moonlight hanging overhead, his voice trembled with regret. "There's nothing left I can do for him anymore." After the meal, Kang Chil-ho asked softly, "Do you have any regrets?" Tajung flicked the ash from his cigarette into the tray and replied, his voice heavy, "Every single day I regret. My entire temple squad, and we had to be perfect. Always." His head lowered as he continued. "To save someone, anyone. To keep them alive. Or at the very least, to make sure they survived through each day." He closed his eyes and spoke with measured calm. "We weren't allowed to make mistakes. Even one single mistake could cost a life. And that one life could be the hope of many others." Chil-ho stayed silent for a long moment, reflecting. "I thought Sang Hu had matured beyond his years, but now I see. He learned it all from this man." His thoughts spiraled inward. Anyone would grow weary, always being forced to live up to perfection. And yet, despite that exhaustion, he still managed to raise an entire generation of successors. As Taejung pushed his chair back, preparing to leave, Chil-ho asked, "Are you heading back to your hometown?" "Yes," Taejung answered immediately. Chil-ho's gaze lingered on him, unwavering. He could sense the weight of all Taejung had endured. Living for others, that was how I spent most of my life in that other world too. When Taejung reached for his wallet, he asked casually, "How much do I owe you, old man?" Chil-ho waved him off with a firm shake of his head. "It's all free." He froze for a moment, stunned, as if he couldn't quite believe it. "Huh?" Seeing his reaction, Chil-ho replied gently, "Our restaurant usually waives the bill for those who are about to return to their hometown." Taejung chuckled, shaking his head. "What a strange little restaurant." Then he stood, turned toward the door, and added with a smile, "Thanks for the meal. I'll leave that kid in your care from now on." Those words stopped Chil-ho in his tracks. "That boy, he's grown into a fine guardian." Taejung sighed, though there was unmistakable pride glimmering in his tone. "Yeah, that kid, he really has become an excellent guardian." Turning back, he added softly, "I've treated him like my own son." "Ah, forget it." Before leaving, he still managed to flash a bright smile. "That was a pleasant conversation, boss. Thank you." And then, he walked away alone under the glow of the full moon, thinking to himself, "The moon's so bright tonight." Chil-ho watched his figure grow smaller in the distance, his thoughts heavy. A veteran never truly dies. They just disappear. At dawn the next morning, Taejung rode his beloved motorcycle to another place. The engine cut off, and he slipped off his helmet. He stood in silence, gazing at the city bathed in the soft glow of sunrise. With a quiet farewell, he whispered, "I'm off now." From atop a distant mountain ridge, Kim Sang-hu had been watching the whole time, eyes locked on the fading silhouette of the old man. Tears welled up as his voice trembled into the wind, "Stay healthy, old man, please." And with that, Sang-hu vanished in the blink of an eye. Moments later, on that same cliffside, a nine-tailed fox appeared. Its voice carried a delicate lilt as it murmured, so gentle, its gaze lingered wistfully on the man who had just departed, the same one who had once handed it the glowing stone. The fox's voice rose again, soft and almost mournful. "They are all so gentle, never dangerous. Farewell, yet another gentle soul. the sun climbed higher, spilling brilliant rays across the entire city, washing away the stillness of night. Within Chilho's dream, a voice echoed faintly, "Miro, Miro." Hearing it, he called out instinctively, "Rantaro." The voice persisted, insistent, "Miro." Unice clouded Nakan's expression as she rushed closer. "Rantaro, we're awake. Hurry, come here." But then Chilho's vision blurred. The image of her face dissolved into haze, and before him a massive horde of colossal monsters erupted into sight, their overwhelming presence shaking the heavens and the earth alike. At their center stood one towering beast, its voice booming like thunder. "So, you are the one who summoned me through this rift?" The creature roared in fury, raising its hand as a magic array began to form, aimed straight at Chilho, who stood there bewildered. His expression stiffened, brows furrowing in confusion. "What the hell are you talking about?" he demanded. Clenching his gauntleted fists together with a sharp metallic crack, he braced himself. At that moment, the magic circle beneath the monster's feet blazed to life, bursting with spiraling streams of energy, an ominous sign of the devastating strike about to be unleashed. Kang Chilho's entire body flared with violent spiritual energy, his aura surging as he hurled himself straight at the cold, blinding brilliance radiating from the circle. The instant his hand touched that raging sphere of magic, he jolted awake. His body was drenched in sweat, chest heaving, breath ragged. "Hyuk," he gasped aloud, trembling. Wiping his drenched face with one hand, he glanced to his side and froze. There was Kan, shivering uncontrollably, face pale as if he had just seen death itself. Chilho frowned. "What the hell are you doing?" Kan's voice cracked with frustration and fear. "With that murderous aura of yours exploding out of nowhere, what do you expect me to do?" Chilho turned his head aside, expression cold. "Ha. Ha." Then, unexpectedly, he sighed and muttered, "Sorry." Kan, however, was still too shaken to respond. Noticing the pain etched across Chilho's face, Kan hesitated before asking, "Did you have a nightmare?" Chilho's brows knitted tighter. "No, just damn it. Even though the war ended nearly 10 years ago, sometimes it still hits me like this." His expression darkened. "Could it be because of that monster invasion in Seoul I heard about yesterday?" His eyes sank deep in thought. "That it happened on the same day I fought the Demon King. No, there's no way that was just coincidence." Turning his gaze toward the blazing morning sun, he thought grimly to himself, "But it can't be. I won't be facing the Demon King here again, right?" Kang Chilho stood with his arms crossed, watching Belto hum cheerfully at the front. "Q Q Q," the little one chirped while scribbling all over the floor. Seeing the messy doodles, Chilho rubbed his temple and muttered, "Times like this you really are just a kid, huh?" He walked over, picked up a newspaper lying nearby, and glanced down at the chaotic sketches. "Let's see, what's this supposed to be? Fried chicken?" he guessed. Belto's round eyes sparkled with excitement as it pointed with its stubby little leg and proudly gave the answer, "Menu today." The drawings were so abstract that Chilho had to ask again, "This is fried chicken, really?" Belto tilted its head, eyes wide and innocent, then chirped, "Chai." Scanning over the rest of the drawings covering the floor, Chilho continued, "And this one, a fish. Wait, are those arms? Don't tell me you were trying to draw a mermaid. Though honestly it doesn't look like a mermaid at all." Belto squealed with delight, adding a few more cheerful chi sounds. Finally Chilho scooped the little creature up, scolding gently, "You little rascal." Belto giggled and pressed its short arms against his cheeks, babbling, "Papa." That innocent act of affection melted Chilho's annoyance instantly, drawing a reluctant smile from him. He set Belto back down, ruffling its small head. "All right, I'll make fried chicken today. But only if you clean up all this mess you made, got it?" After giving his instructions, Chilho raised his voice. Kan, who had been brushing his teeth, rushed over in a hurry. "Yes, sir." Chilho held Belto in his arms, his tone turning stern. "Teach this little one how to clean today." Kan froze, wide-eyed. "Wah," he groaned, realizing he'd just been dragged into trouble. "This kid, always causing me grief." Meanwhile, Belto was still clinging sweetly to Chilho, chanting, "Papa. Papa." The scene made Kan seethe with jealousy. "Why does it act closer to him than me?" he muttered under his breath. Before heading out, Chilho gave a final reminder. "Watch the house carefully. I'll be back after shopping." The morning marketplace was buzzing with energy, stalls filled with goods, People haggling and calling out to customers. Chielho had Belto's chicken carefully packed. The shop owner raised a brow. Buying this much chicken, huh? Chielho chuckled. Yeah, someone eats a lot. Well, it is a dragon. The shop owner's face lit up. Ah, then you've come at the perfect time. Today's a festival day. Luck's on your side. Festival. Chielho repeated, curious. The man pointed toward the town square. You haven't seen it yet? Go check it out. They should still be running the test. At the square, a massive mechanical foot slammed into the ground, shaking the dirt as a towering figure of metal emerged amid cheers. Wah! The crowd roared. Chielho's sharp eyes tracked the construct. A golem, he murmured. Just then, a familiar female voice greeted him. Hello, boss. Turning, he replied. Ah, hello. It was Lee Gabi. You came to watch too? She asked lightly. I'm here for the test run of the ogre we just finished building. Ogre? Chielho repeated, unfamiliar with the name. Lee Gabi explained with a hint of pride. Yes, that's what we call it. It's a golem you can actually control, built with magic crystals. Chielho raised a brow, unimpressed. Nothing new. The Espan continent has those too. Still, his gaze lingered critically on the mechanical giant. Strong as hell, sure. But the weaknesses are obvious. Its main advantage is brute strength, great against massive monsters. But against smaller, agile ones, it'd be a sitting duck. Then, narrowing his eyes, he added, and besides, not just anyone can pilot something like that. He glanced at Lee Gabi. So, if it's being controlled, that means someone's already inside. Her answer was immediate. Yes. Gearwalk, the first awakener. Chielho's expression shifted. So one of the 3 first awakeners is right over there. Kang Chielho knew this subject well. He understood perfectly why not just anyone could pilot a rideable golem. The reason was simple. The pilot had to endure the immense energy radiating from the magic crystal. Only certain awakeners, born with rare physiques, would withstand it. And the one who had been operating the ogre just now was none other than Gearwalk Kim Hun, a class, Golem Meister, and a first awakener. Thinking about the ogre, Chielho couldn't help but calculate the cost of its creation. Its combat potential was solid, but the money it swallowed up was staggering. In terms of sheer cost efficiency, it was hard to justify. Still, with the right support, such technology could greatly advance magic crystal engineering and make the world far more convenient. After watching long enough, he concluded there was nothing else worth seeing. You've worked hard, he said politely before turning to leave. Lee Gabi called after him. By the way, boss, your restaurant's still open today, right? Chielho answered honestly, yes. Unless something unusual happens, we're open year-round. Perfect, she replied warmly. Then I'll come by soon. By the time he returned home, the sun had already slipped behind the tall buildings, leaving the sky awash in a glowing orange dusk. Stepping through the doorway, Chielho froze. Huh? Before him stood a mermaid-like figure. Who is this? He wondered. Beside him, Belto jumped up and down, squealing excitedly. Kya! Hearing the commotion, Kan appeared and greeted him casually. Oh, Chielho, you're back. But Chielho didn't waste a moment. What spirit is this? Yours. Kan spread his arms proudly toward the mermaid and bragged. My younger sibling here has been confirmed as a spirit summoner master class. Aha! He struck a pose, putting on airs of wisdom. You can probably tell from its scales. My mother was a blue dragon. Back in the day, when the blue dragon tribe of Waterland and the red dragon tribe of Dragon Mountain mingled, well, the result was Chielho, uninterested in the backstory, cut him off with a flat observation. Undine, a water spirit. Belto, meanwhile, was tugging at the mermaid spirit, calling it Mama. Kan quickly corrected Cole. That's not your mother. But Belto ignored him, clinging tighter and chanting Mama, Mama. Kan sighed in defeat. She's not your mom. Chielho studied the spirit carefully. At that level, a high-class spirit, right? Kan shrugged helplessly. Yeah, that's right. Chielho exhaled. It's been a long time since I've seen a spirit in non-combat form. When they fight, high-class spirits are terrifying. His analytical mind switched on. The principle of spirit summoning is straightforward. Spirits are pulled from the multi-dimensional spirit world. Their names remain consistent across ranks. Undine for water, Salamander for fire, Sylph for wind, and the earth spirit. But I've never heard of a spirit king being summoned for any attribute, So high-class spirits must be the limit. Then more questions arose. So we have the demon world where demons reside, the spirit world, the S-band continent, and even the dimension containing Earth. That makes 4 dimensions already. And S-band and Earth, they're directly connected. He closed his eyes, unsettled. This is confusing. Snapping back to the present, Chielho remembered something. Oh right, Can, did you teach Belto how to clean? Can puffed up proudly. Watch this. Undine raised her hand, and a graceful stream of water flowed forth. Belto squealed in delight. Cuo. In an instant, the scattered crayons floated into the air and slipped neatly back into their box. Chielho chuckled, satisfied. Huh. I really ought to get myself a spirit too. This class is insanely practical. He grinned. Perfect. The kids awakened to a new power. Time to throw a little celebration. Heading into the kitchen, Kang Chielho peeled the plastic wrap off the bowl of chicken he had already coated in batter earlier that day. Chielho moved with practiced ease, dipping each piece of chicken into the batter. Tonight's main dish, fried chicken. 30 years ago, this country had gone through a full-blown fried chicken craze. As he worked, Kang Chielho recalled the proud history of the dish. It seemed like every possible variation had already been invented: spicy sauce fried chicken, soy sauce fried chicken, and countless experimental hybrids. By now there were probably over 100 different kinds. He pressed the battered chicken down into a pan of shimmering golden oil. Among them all, only one truly reigned supreme, the foundation upon which every variation was built, the timeless, crispy fried chicken. When the first batch was ready, he held a piece up in front of Belto, who was practically drooling. Growl. Here's the menu, Chielho said, passing the chicken along with a hint of advice. Use your hands, it tastes better that way. Start with the drumstick. Belto wasted no time. He snatched the piping hot golden piece and bit in. Silence. Chielho's brow furrowed. This kid, is it not good? Then, Belto's face lit up in pure bliss. Can, curious, leaned closer. Wait, it's that good? Unable to resist any longer, he reached for the bowl of chicken. I can't take it, I'm eating too, but Chielho stopped him with a firm hand. Hold it. His expression turned sharp, eyes cold and humorless. Khan froze. His hand hovered awkwardly, nerves building. Is it really that serious? Chielho's gaze didn't waver. You could say that. Can swallowed hard, biting his lip. He stammered, I'll finally. He picked up the chicken neck. I like this part. Still nervous, he added. But what do you mean by exposing my essence? Chielho held the tension a moment longer before letting out a quiet chuckle. Just kidding. Let's eat. Both of them then turned their attention back to Belto, his belly round and stretched tight. Can nearly cried. I didn't even get a bite yet. Chielho blinked in mild shock. He ate everything. Even the bones? Good thing I fried a big batch. From the fridge he pulled out a bottle of beer. Normally he'd go with soju. But when it came to fried chicken, beer was the law. Can's eyes widened with delight. Oha. The two clinked their glasses. A little blessing after a long day. Well then, cheers. You worked hard today. Can finally sank his teeth into the chicken neck in his hand, savoring every bite. This is so good. Mid-chew he glanced over at Chielho, only to gape in astonishment. Wait, how the hell do you strip the bones that clean? Can was still struggling with the chicken neck in his hand, picking through the maze of tiny bones. Kang Chielho could only laugh it off with a helpless chuckle. Ha ha ha. Suddenly Belto pointed upward, his stubby arm waving excitedly. He tilted his head back toward the sky. Hua. Can followed his gaze. Through the window brilliant fireworks blossomed, thousands of them, their colors scattering across the night. Must still be the festival, Chielho muttered, making an educated guess. Can let out a small sigh of relief. Good, for a second, I thought war had broken out. Chielho scooped Belto up and carried him to the hallway. That's fireworks, he explained gently. First time seeing them, huh, Pa? Belto cried out, thrilled. Chielho's eyes softened with a touch of pity. Come to think of it, this kid's been cooped up in the restaurant all his life. He must feel so stifled. He glanced at Can. Khan, when will it be able to transform? Can turned, answering casually. Since it's awakened to a class already, soon. Chielho pressed further, curious. It'll breathe fire too. Kan didn't hesitate. Of course. Chielho smiled faintly, intrigued. Now that's something worth looking forward to. As fireworks painted the sky with bursts of light, Chielho's thoughts drifted toward the future. When it transforms, I'll buy it nice clothes. I'll take it to see the world. I'll get it shoes, tie up its hair, maybe even a necklace or a ring. Elsewhere, the roar of drills filled the air. Kim Hun observed carefully before giving instructions to the construction crew. The pressure's too heavy. Adjust it. And the mana stone efficiency isn't up to expectations. We'll need a metal that absorbs mana more effectively. He stepped out of the room with a weary sigh. Phew, damn. Outside, Li Gabi was waiting, waving casually. Rough day, huh? Hun blinked in surprise. You do realize this is the men's locker room, right? She sat there, unbothered, crossing one leg over the other. So what? Haven't seen you in a while. I just wanted to check how much you've grown. Hun chuckled as he slipped off his jacket, tossing out a teasing jab. Keep calling yourself an old lady, and now you're basically a grandma. Huh? He complained about his day, voice edged with frustration. I need a shower and a real meal. Damn trials because of them. I've lived on nothing but water all day. Playing the role of the older sister, Li Gabi coolly announced, I knew you'd be starving, so I already picked out a restaurant. Hun glanced back at her, smirking. Sister. Please, you're older than my mom. Anyway, where's this restaurant? Seo Daemun, she replied simply. As he changed, Hun shifted the subject. Hey, did you hear about Sanggu's side? Captain Cheon Tai-jung retired. I heard, Gabi said, rubbing her temples, eyes closed. Word is he went back to his hometown. Hun let out a sigh of regret. A shame, he was a good man. But everyone's time comes. Gabi cracked her eyes open, listening quietly as he went on. Sometimes I wish I had a hometown to return to. That struck her memory. She asked, by the way, the new mana stones, are they stable? Hun explained, stable enough, I'd say. The mana density is high, but it isn't pure mana. Then he posed a question of his own. These came from that new dungeon, right? Yeah, Gabi answered without hesitation. Temporarily ranked as Class 1, but it's suspicious. She elaborated. It's a cave-type dungeon near Incheon. No monsters, just a mine full of mana stones. But the sky above it has started showing strange colors. And then a weight dropped, not nearly enough to release the tension in the air. In Kang Chielho's palm lay a necklace, the chain glinting faintly. He clenched it tightly, straightened his back, and lifted his gaze to the heavens. A sinister violet aura seeped from his body, swirling like a ghostly flame. Kasim was the one entrusted with everything. Mirolichus had fought for treasures once taken from dragons after their hunts. Now they were all under his management. Many of those artifacts had been damaged during the battles against the Demon King. Through countless encounters with dragons, a strange pattern emerged. Whenever they caught sight of Mirolichus, the beasts would immediately scatter in terror. Mirolichus, Kasim thought, you've noticed it too, haven't you? Above all, the dragons always avoid me. They never once dare to face me directly. But that mystery would have to wait. For now he was using the stone embedded in his necklace to track a signal. Among the hoarded relics in his care was a device, a mana detector, the mana ruler. And sure enough, the device pulsed. A mana signature was here. Everything unfolding on the ground below was under Mirolichus's silent observation. Word had spread that Kim Song-woo's team was defeated in Jenkark. What happened there? Wasn't this supposed to be just a mana crystal mine? If mined correctly, it could have been a groundbreaking discovery. And yet, in the next breath, the truth hit him. No. If this dungeon collapsed because of the Demon King, then this excess mana isn't natural. Just as I suspected. The sky cracked. Jagged fissures spread across the heavens, exactly as Mirolichus had foreseen. It had begun. Moments later the sky shattered. A colossal iron gate materialized in the void. From it poured an endless horde of gigantic hogs, their thunderous bellows shaking the air. On the battlefield below, Sang-Hu barked his orders without hesitation. Damn it. Formation D, battle ready. The giant hogs are charging, prepare to engage. Then he himself leapt forward into the fray. The rest of you hold the line from the outside. Those are stage 6 war hogs, fully evolved. The mages stepped in first, unleashing spells to slow the beasts that had just crashed to the earth. A shimmering wall of magical shields held for a moment, but it was straining, buckling under the weight of the stampede. Just as the barrier was about to collapse, a flash streaked down from the sky. Sang-Hu descended like a spear, his lance blazing. "Captain, I'm here." For a moment it seemed he would stand alone against the horde of kingpins. But then he lifted his gaze and froze. His eyes widened, disbelief scrawled across his face. This is insane." The ground quaked violently. A shadow loomed overhead. Then boom. The earth shattered as a kingpin fell, its massive body slamming into the battlefield. Sang-Hu stood stunned, at a loss for words. He forced himself to recover and shouted to the others, "The kingpin is here. If the boss has shown itself, no more hogs will spawn. Focus on rescuing the injured." But the danger was far from over. Above, the twisted gate writhed in the storm-dark sky, its form warping unnaturally. Below, Sang-Hu was surrounded 5, maybe 6 massive hogs closing in on him from all sides. His comrades were barely holding their own. One warrior managed to cut down a beast, but the man beside him was crushed beneath another, his scream cut short in an instant. Sang-Hu froze, utterly stunned by the scene before him. It wasn't until someone called out, "Captain," that he forced himself to make a decision. There was no other choice. Watching his teammates scatter, some fleeing while others tried to hold back the rampaging giant pigs, he thought to himself, "If I want to protect the remaining members, and the civilians, I have to fall back to the rear." But retreating wasn't a truly safe solution. What about those trapped near the kingpin at the front? Was choosing to save the majority really the right decision? The thought tightened his grip on his spear. People who were called heroes always said they regretted their choices every single day. Standing at this crossroads, Sang-Hu felt the weight of the decision crush down on him. How much torment had those so-called heroes endured? How much regret had they carried? The thought was terrifying. Then, a memory flashed in his mind, a line he had heard before, "To be honest, I just wanted to run away." Those were Taejung's words. But it was precisely in that moment, if one dared to take that step forward, that person could become a true powerhouse. Run, and you would spend your whole life merely chasing after the backs of others. The thought ignited a spark of resolve within Sang-Hu. "I will become a true hero," he shouted to the others, his voice cutting through the chaos. "There are teammates trapped over there." Sang-Hu personally led the way. "I'll go first and clear a path. Squad A, charge and breakthrough." With a single precise strike, he cut down multiple kingpins, spearheading the charge. The other members quickly followed, dispatching the remaining creatures. Sang-Hu fought relentlessly. There were too many monsters, and his mana was running dangerously low. But then, as he looked up, he saw countless kingpins raining down from the portal. He reminded himself firmly, "I can't stop now." Behind him, his team watched anxiously. "Captain, the kingpins are coming." Yet he pressed forward, eyes fixed on the towering kingpin before him. "Behind me are my comrades. Grip the blade tight. They keep coming, but I will crush them all." He shouted with determination, "I will clear the path." Then he lunged straight at the kingpin, his blade piercing through it in a single, powerful strike. The creature shattered instantly, reduced to nothing. Sang-Hu felt a surge of something power, raw and intoxicating, coursing through him. He raised his blade high. The energy overflowed, almost blinding in its intensity. But there was no time to savor victory. Sang-Hu immediately issued orders. "This isn't the moment to stand around. Tend to the wounded first. Bring those who fainted back to the main camp." Then, a new problem arose. Someone stammered urgently, "Captain." From the portal another kingpin. Sang-Hu's heart clenched, and he roared, preparing to face the next wave. The scene made even Sang-Hu shudder in disbelief. His strength was nearly exhausted, and he knew deep down that he couldn't kill it. He had to come up with a plan to escape. "Damn it, prepare a full defensive formation and be ready to fall back when I signal," he thought. "This kingpin, it's unbelievably ferocious," Sang-Hu muttered under his breath. Kingpin. For now he had only one option, hold out. The guild must have received the signal. Reinforcements will arrive. But a question nagged at him, almost impossible to answer. How much longer can we actually hold out? He froze at the thought. Turning around, he saw the faces of his teammates behind him, all filled with panic. Above them, countless kingpins were plummeting from the sky. Then, as if by magic, they were wiped out in an instant. The entire group froze, eyes wide. What just happened? The sky returned to its clear, tranquil blue. The monsters were gone. The kingpins had vanished, but the battle still left significant damage behind. Sang-Hu ran anxiously to Man-Ho. Man-Ho, are you okay? Can you stand? Fortunately, Man-Ho was unharmed. Yeah, I'm fine. Nothing serious happened. Just a few burns here and there, but I'm okay. Sang-Hu helped him to his feet. First things first, they needed to retreat. He immediately gave orders to the group. Evacuate this dungeon now. Everyone followed without hesitation. Yes, sir. Even though the immediate threat had been neutralized, the complete disappearance of the kingpins without a trace left Sang-Hu suspicious. What on earth just happened? He wondered. This has to be the work of Mirolichus. That reckless kid. I need to keep an eye on him. He let out a long, drawn-out sigh. I just remembered some of the things he said. Mirolichus thought to himself, no one in this world truly knows who I am. There's a bit of chaos, yes, because of the absolute immortal power I wielded. But consider that the price I paid to save him today. Watching Sang-Hu tending to the wounded, he couldn't help but be curious about him. And yet he claims to only be rank 2. A satisfied smile spread across Mirolichus's face. After this battle, Sang-Hu had reached master level. That meant South Korea now had its 4th awakened rank 1. Lost in thought, his stomach suddenly growled loudly, reminding him of another pressing matter. The battle was over. And it was time for Mirolichus to return to Earth. First things first, he needed to eat. He lit the fire for grilling meat. This fire, Chil-Ho sat beside Kan, tending the fire. Not big enough yet. Wait a bit, he said. Moments later, Kan was surprised as Chil-Ho brought back a large bundle of firewood. What's this? He exclaimed. Kan looked at Chil-Ho with a mix of caution and admiration. This body, it took 50 years to master martial arts, to become a swordsman, even to gain the power of reincarnation. Just how strong is this guy? Noticing Kan's intense gaze, Chil-Ho asked, what are you thinking about so seriously? Kan stammered, flustered. Nothing. At that moment, Q woke up. Barely standing, Q immediately began casting magic, despite Kan's too late attempt to stop him. Kyle, it turned out he was summoning Undine. The moment she appeared, a massive torrent of water crashed down on both Chil-Ho and Kan. The result? The grill area was soaked. I'll go get more firewood, Chil-Ho muttered. Despite the chaos, Chil-Ho managed to prepare a full spread of grilled kingpin pork. Kan happily grabbed a piece, and was about to eat it. Grilled meat. Thanks for the meal, but Chil-Ho stopped him before it reached his mouth. Wait a second. Seeing Chil-Ho wrap the meat in fresh vegetables, Kan looked puzzled. What are you doing? Chil-Ho explained. This is called a meat roll. Kan tried it himself and nodded in approval. Delicious. As they ate, Chil-Ho asked, Kan, you're still investigating the dungeon, right? Mouth full, Kan replied. Yeah, whenever I have free time outside work at the restaurant or watching over Q, I investigate further. Why do you ask? Chil-Ho said. Today, in the Magic Crystal Mine dungeon in Incheon, I saw a whole herd of giant pigs, all combat types. You'd think that's normal, right? Giant pigs evolved to adapt to the ecosystem, nothing strange there. He paused, then added. But they developed far too quickly, in just a few days. Still, they don't compare to what I've seen on the continent of Espen. Kan's eyes widened when he heard this. Wait, when the spatial rift opened, that wasn't a power from the continent of Espen? Chil-Ho nodded thoughtfully. Yeah, it might mean that Earth itself is connecting to another dimension, not just the continent of Espen. He added firmly, whatever is happening, it's definitely beyond our understanding. The streetlights cast their glow into the night as the scene shifted to the Korean Awakening Association. A voice rang out, full of excitement. This is absolutely incredible. Kim Sang-Hu recounted the events with enthusiasm. Ever since that blinding flash of light, the monsters seemed to have vanished completely, even the boss-level creatures had disappeared. The old man across from him responded indifferently, and Gabi confirmed the same. Sang-Hu frowned, puzzled. Heavens, what exactly happened? Suddenly, the old man leaned forward, speaking with genuine praise. Anyway, congratulations. You've reached the level of a master in your profession. You're about to become Korea's 4th awakened first class. How does that feel? Sang-Hu half joked, half serious. That's great news, so does that mean my salary increases? The old man remained calm. Of course it does. Sang Hu immediately corrected himself. Well, if there's no time to spend it, why raise it at all? Yu Jinsu laughed heartily. Do you want me to give you a few days off? Sang Hu quickly refused. No need. You know how busy the rainy season is. Just make sure my team gets a bonus. The old man shifted topics. Have you chosen your next profession yet? Calmly Sang Hu replied, yes, I've chosen Steelheart. A calculated thought flickered through Sang Hu's mind. Steelheart grants 2 extra lives and significantly boosts overall durability. He clenched his fists, deep in thought. Once he masters this profession, his body will be as hard as steel. Lost in contemplation, Sang Hu reflected on his previous reckless charge into enemy lines, risking his life. That can't happen again. Last time was sheer luck, I would have died otherwise. As a Steelheart, serving as both tanker and damage dealer, at least I can buy time for everyone else. Yu Jinsu nodded in approval. A wise choice. Still, take some time to rest. Gabi is handling the mine investigation. Go back now. Immediately, Sang Hu stood and greeted them. I was planning to head out anyway. The old man scowled, warning him, mind your words, young man. A moment later, Sang Hu stepped into the elevator, reminding himself, I didn't sense any malice from that light. On the contrary, it felt warm, almost as if something was calling me closer. Images flashed in his mind, stirring unease. Similar to what happened with Belto, could this be some mysterious force? Or is someone out there guiding us? Even after exiting the elevator, Sang Hu couldn't shake the unease. The events with Belto and the magic crystal mine shared a common thread, a power unlike anything he had ever seen. Finally, he resolved within himself, all I can do now is hope that this power never turns against us. The scene shifted again, this time to a room already set up with bottles of alcohol and snacks. A bottle was lifted, pouring wine into the glasses. Kan frowned and called out, Chil Ho, quiet and steady, replied. Yeah? Kan asked, hesitant, are you worried, wondering if the Demon King is strong? Chil Ho's confidence was unwavering. Oh, he is very strong. But I'm stronger. Kan whispered softly, do you hate the Demon King? Chil Ho faltered slightly, caught off guard. Hate him? Deep in Chil Ho's mind, memories began to surface. There had been a time like that after he was summoned to that world. The people he held dear had helped him adapt, only to be wounded and killed by the Demon King's army. He recalled fragments of the past, each piece etched with resolve, because he had power, he had vowed to stop them. Flashes of battlefields crossed his thoughts, and he muttered to himself, years of war, blood upon blood. Sometimes, Chil Ho's heart darkened with sorrow at the bloody scenes, when everything ended and none of his friends remained by his side. He bowed his head in contemplation, the hatred for the Demon King burning within him. His mind drifted to the image of a hand casting spells in a whisper, a king of that world. A mysterious figure had constantly brainwashed him, murmuring, you summoned me, into this dimension. Chil Ho muttered irritably. I hated him once. Then he smiled wryly, recounting. Back then, the Demon King himself said he had also been summoned by someone. Kang froze, Chil Ho explained seriously, summoned literally. He took a casual sip of wine and continued, someone called him to the continent of Espen, and someone also summoned me. Kang's curiosity flared. How could that happen? Summon the Demon King? Then how did you get back? Chil Ho lowered his gaze, a fleeting shadow of sorrow crossing his face at the question. After a long pause, he spoke softly, for 10 years I traveled across the world in search. He confided earnestly, time passed, and I began to feel despair. Beyond all those endless years, a spatial rift tore open before me, and I saw modern buildings. Finally, he murmured almost dreamily, I returned through that gateway, hard to believe, isn't it? But it's the truth. A firm voice unexpectedly rang out from across the table, I trust you. Kang lowered his head but spoke with determination, I trust you, Chil Ho. He continued reassuringly, you've endured so much. Chil Ho offered a bitter smile, softly rebutting, it's nothing yet. The two clinked their glasses, and in his mind, Chil Ho affirmed silently, yes, I still hate the Demon King. He pondered deeply, but at the same time, a flicker of pity arose. The Demon King, thrown into a foreign world, must have endured an unbearable loneliness. The scene shifted to a star-filled sky. Across the expanse, a distant voice called repeatedly, Miro Rikus. Chil Ho closed his eyes, thinking, I keep having nightmares. In his mind appeared a girl sprawled on the ground. Chilho muttered to himself, it's always about war, watching those you love die. It hurts, like nails being hammered into my heart, over and over, every day. He never escaped these memories. The nails were massive, and the pain unbearable. In the haze of his thoughts he reflected continuously, I had to rely on many things to survive, like alcohol. If I'm drunk, at least I can sleep. Chilho found himself drifting through countless images in his mind, each one stirring unease. If I weren't strong enough, maybe I would have gone insane long ago, or perhaps I already have, he thought, the weight of his memories pressing down on him. Suddenly he jolted awake from the nightmare, gasping for air, his whole body trembling. He pushed himself upright, still thinking, another nightmare, huh? He glanced at Kayul, who was sleeping soundly beside him, and gently pulled a blanket over the smaller figure. Chilho froze for a moment, quietly whispering, ah. He hugged Kayul to his chest, pondering softly, when did I even roll over here to sleep? Moments later, Chilho stood and looked over at Kang, still lost in a deep, indifferent sleep, again in one of those awkward positions. A small smile crept across his face, though his mind couldn't help but linger on it. Just a normal morning, huh? After a short while, Chilho stepped casually out of the house. He hadn't taken more than a few steps when someone called out, young man. Curiosity stirred within him. Young man, Chilho quickly responded, yes, do you mean me? An elderly woman waved her hand and asked, hey kid, which way leads to the Ariring train? Chilho frowned, unsure, and asked back, excuse me. Still uncomprehending, he paused, thinking, is there really such a train? The old woman noticed his reaction and blushed, embarrassed. You don't know? Oh dear, what am I supposed to do if no one knows? With that, she turned and walked away, muttering incessantly, oh heavens, oh heavens. Chilho continued on into his shop, still puzzled. He had never seen that elderly woman around before. The Ariring train, what could that be? I'll have to ask properly next time. His eyes wandered back, and in his inner thoughts, he scolded himself gently, maybe I should open the shop before it gets too late. The morning sunlight streamed in brilliantly, each ray illuminating the room beautifully. In the kitchen, someone carefully wiped down each knife. Once the tools were cleaned, they busied themselves with scrubbing the counters until they gleamed. Suddenly, someone entered from outside, greeting cheerfully, good morning, boss. Chilho responded warmly, good morning. Choi Jae-woo naturally sat down, striking up a smooth conversation. Lovely weather today, isn't it? What's on the menu today? Chilho spoke in a soft tone, letting Jae-woo know, I'm still getting things ready, so for now I can only make a simple fried rice. Jae-woo's eyes lit up with excitement. Perfect. Outside, the sky had begun shedding raindrops, as if pouring out the weight of its own emotions. Jae-woo instinctively glanced out the window and murmured, oh, looks like the rainy season has truly begun. He then turned back to the kitchen, continuing to grumble, today's going to be insanely busy, oh heavens. Chilho focused on frying the rice, deliberately tuning out the complaints, while his mind wandered. Probably because of the help I gave this time. A short while later, Chilho carefully served the fried rice. Fried rice is ready, he announced. Jae-woo, suddenly recalling something, spoke with a serious tone, oh right, lately, that old Ariring lady keeps wandering around this area. Chilho, curious, repeated the name, the Ariring lady? Chilho calmly explained while chewing. You probably haven't heard, she's an old woman who's been collecting cardboard recently. And, Jae-woo hesitated a moment before adding, her spirits haven't been too good. Have you met her? Chilho replied indifferently, yeah, she stopped by in front of the shop a little while ago. He continued, she asked about the Ariring train. Do you know what that is? Chilho answered casually, honestly, no one really knows. After finishing his bowl of fried rice, Jae-woo continued to explain, even though life is better these days, it wasn't always like this. Many people have lost loved ones, and quite a few couldn't bear it. With that, he stood up and gave a parting note, it's best to just let things flow naturally. I'm off now. Chilho politely responded, take care on your way. Alone, he stared out the window, lost in thought. The world was in a stage of transition. Even as time moved forward, the truths of each person's life remained unchanged. Chilho envisioned that quiet solitude deep within him, whispering, even today, the world still bears so many scars of the past. The rain tapped steadily against the window as he remained there, expression solemn. So all the visitors who stop by, even that old lady, they're all living with their own wounds. Gradually, Chilho's thoughts became hazy, unclear. At that moment, that's all I thought, and then I let everything pass. While Kang Chilho was quietly brushing his teeth in the bathroom, a sudden noise drifted in from outside. He stepped out, puzzled, and saw Kan cheering on Kyul, who was struggling to do something. Good girl. That's it, grr. Moments later, a tiny strand of hair poked out from Kyul's head. The little one happily raised its hands, looking utterly adorable, yet its overall appearance hadn't changed at all. Both Kan and Kang Chilho groaned in unison, disappointed. Failed again. Seeing that Kyul still hadn't succeeded, Kang Chilho sighed in frustration and stood up. Even transformation requires a secret, huh? He muttered. Kan, still intently observing Kyul, explained, yes. Once it succeeds even once, it won't forget, but the first attempt is always the hardest. After a moment of thought, Kang Chilho suggested, maybe we should try dressing her in fewer clothes. Without further delay, he put an oversized, baggy shirt on Kyul. Kyul blinked in confusion at the new clothing. Kang Chilho studied her for a moment, then commented, as expected, she's pretty big. When she fully transforms, she'll probably look like a 5-year-old. Almost instantly, Kyul's body radiated a chill that left Kan stunned. Her tiny hands trembled as frost seemed to gather around her. In no time she truly transformed into a child of roughly 5 years old. Seeing the transformation succeed, Kang Chilho could only show mild surprise. Kyul, now in her human form, quickly ran toward Kang Chilho, calling out Bappa. Bappa! Her small legs weren't steady yet, and she slipped. Luckily, Kang Chilho's large hands reacted swiftly, catching her before she fell. Kyul beamed joyfully, now genuinely happy in her transformed state. Seeing such an adorable little one, Kang Chilho couldn't help but exclaim, ah! Kan quickly ran over, scooped her up, and beamed with satisfaction. Jal succeeded, he exclaimed. Looking at Kyul, Kang Chilho exchanged a few words with Kan. It's still too early for her to wander outside, but she has succeeded in transforming. Truly my little sister, he agreed with a smile. After their excitement, Kang Chilho prepared to get back to work. I should start preparing the food. Meanwhile, find Kyul an outfit that fits, he said, while Kan remained lost in delight, laughing, yes, haha. By evening, the rain began to fall. It soaked every corner and covered all the pathways. Kang Chilho walked through the downpour, holding an umbrella, muttering, it keeps raining, only a little kingpin tenderloin left, I'll make sweet and sour ribs instead. When he arrived at his restaurant and folded his umbrella, he suddenly noticed someone standing beside him. Seeing that it was an elderly lady, Kang Chilho stepped closer and greeted her politely. Hello, ma'am. The lady returned the courtesy, speaking with equal respect. Hello, young man. It's raining heavily, may I stay here for a while? Seeing her stand there politely asking, Kang Chilho naturally replied, of course, please come in. Have some tea. But the lady shook her head gently. No, thank you. With this rain I should be going quickly. Her words gave him pause. Strange, hadn't she spoken in the local dialect before? Kang Chilho opened his umbrella, catching the lady's scrutinizing gaze. He politely offered it to her. At least use this while you walk, please. She accepted without hesitation. Thank you, oh my, thank you, young man. The lady prepared to leave with the umbrella in hand. Before walking off, she asked, I'll definitely bring this back. Oh, do you sell jjajangmyeon here? Kang Chilho tried to recall. Jjajangmyeon maybe. Unsure, he decided to step into the restaurant and check. I don't have the ingredients right now. Let me see if I can prepare some. But as he opened the fridge, he was suddenly startled. Turning around, he saw the elderly lady leaving, her cart piled high with goods. Oh my, he exclaimed softly. Still, he maintained a calm expression as he watched her go, thoughtful. Strange indeed. The rain continued to pour harder. Inside the restaurant, a radio broadcast echoed warnings. Apparently this rainy spell would last for a while. During the rainy season, caution was advised regarding water-based monsters. The radio repeated alerts, giving examples such as kelpies. Normally kelpies were low-level monsters, around level 1D, but in rain, their power could surge to level 7. Suddenly a voice cut through the radio warnings. A mug of beer slammed onto the table. Boss. A young man wearing glasses, clearly drunk, slumped forward, sobbing and lamenting. How am I supposed to attract a woman? Kang Chil-ho recognized him, Kim Hun, someone who had been regularly drinking since going out with Lee Gabi. Kang Chil-ho was surprised by the question. Huh? Observing him, Kang Chil-ho recalled his own past. Before being summoned to another world, he had only ever dated one girlfriend. Kim Hun continued, about to reveal more. You see, this really is a secret. He recalled memories from long ago. The woman he spoke of was a heroine about 2 years prior. A hidden boss had appeared in a newly discovered dungeon, and she had saved him. His ideal type was a strong woman. He praised her openly. Strong women are incredibly captivating. First of all, how should I say it? Fiercely strong, cool and beautiful. Kang Chil-ho simply nodded in agreement. I understand. Seeing his response, Kim Hun smiled and asked, Oh, even you feel that way, boss? Kang Chil-ho fell silent for a moment, reflecting. I understand what you mean. I felt the same way. His mind drifted to Miro from the past, the strongest, gentlest and most beautiful. Miro, hearing her name, Miro Rikes, his expression tightened slightly. Before he could dwell on it further, Kang Chil-ho noticed Kim Hun still drunk, rambling endlessly about the woman of his dreams. Ever since then I've secretly liked her, but she's sharp, so sharp. Ah, she's irresistible. Kim Hun's words made Kang Chil-ho recall Lee Gabi, the one Kim Hun had gone out with before, right? But Kim Hun immediately denied it. What? No, that one's more like a mother. I prefer women who are a bit rough with me. He continued, his imagination running wild. She hates guys like me. If I cling to her one more time, that'd probably be the day I die. Now, if she sees me again, she threatens to tear me apart. Suddenly he started crying, recounting how she'd said that his ideal type was none other than Kim Sang-hoo. Are you even sane? Kang Chil-ho thought, as the two of them argued daily. Hearing all this, he could only nod, not feeling any irritation. Still, Kim Sang-hoo seemed fairly amiable. Finally, Kim Hun reminded him, this stays a secret, alright? Kang Chil-ho agreed politely. Yes, understood. Kim Hun asked for another beer. Boss, just one more bottle please. Just then, the radio crackled with an announcement. Due to the ongoing heavy rain, urgent repair work was underway at the northern Sedaemon resting tombs. Visitors were asked not to enter at this time. For a moment Kim Hun went silent. Noticing the change, Kang Chil-ho asked, Resting tombs? What's that? Kim Hun sighed. It's a cemetery for the victims of the past. He went on to explain in detail, many had died long ago. Retrieving the bodies had been difficult, so they were cremated, and their names inscribed on a communal cemetery. Suddenly Kang Chil-ho looked toward the entrance and called out in surprise. A blonde warrior stepped inside. Welcome. You are a level 2 awakening. The Sword Queen, Lee Yun-er. A voice came from the doorway. Hello. This place is Kim Hun instinctively turned to look. Without warning, the collar of his shirt was yanked by a firm hand. She leaned close, her expression fierce. Drinking again, you bastard? Lee Yun-er demanded, making Kim Hun shiver. Yin-ah, why are you here? Her anger flared as she grabbed his head. Stop fooling around. Come with me. Why do you go out drinking alone at night, bothering others? And yet, Kim Hun seemed to enjoy it. See? She's too captivating, Kang Chil-ho thought. Lee Yun-er's glare could have cut through steel, veins on her face stood out in pure fury. Kim Hun was finally dragged along, cheeks flushed, saying goodbye. Boss, thanks again today. Kang Chil-ho, both confused and helpless, called out, take care. In the rain, Kim Hun happily shielded Lee Yun-er with his umbrella. Watching the pair, Kang Chil-ho realized that the woman named Yun-ah was indeed the Sword Queen. Once they were gone, Kang Chil-ho turned to resume his tasks, thinking, let me clean up first, but then he heard a voice calling out. But Yun-ah, why did you come to get me? Don't tell me it's Kang Chil-ho listened intently to the conversation between the two, catching every word. Quiet. That's an order from above. The Kelpie pack has appeared in the city center. She continued. What? Kelpie always show up at this time. This time there are too many of them, and civilian casualties have spiked. They're especially aggressive. His gaze drifted outside, unease settling in his chest. Something was wrong, he had a bad feeling. The steady rain only seemed to confirm his ominous intuition. Returning to the kitchen, Kang Chil-ho immediately spotted Keel attempting to open the fridge. He walked over, scooped her up, and scolded her gently, "Sneaking down here to steal ingredients again, huh?" Keel curled snugly in his arms, repeatedly calling, "Bappa." Kang Chil-ho patiently observed. The little girl still couldn't hide her tail and wings. Watching her, a thought crossed his mind. Someday, Jol would return to the continent of Espen. Kyle stretched out her tiny hands, joyfully calling, "Bappa, tail." Kang Chil-ho held her tight, savoring the moment, silently resolving, "Until then, I'll cook plenty of good meals and create as many happy memories as I can." Suddenly, a voice called out, "Keish." Startled, he quickly hid Keel beneath the table, whispering, "You have to stay quiet here. No customers come this early, I can't let my guard down." It was the elderly woman from the door earlier. Kang Chil-ho greeted her warmly, "Hello. You're looking for me." She smiled politely, and he felt a sense of relief. She stepped inside and ordered just a single bowl of jjajangmyeon. "It'll take a little time, please come in first," he said, preparing to serve her. She added hurriedly, "Oh, I'm in a rush." Her accent and appearance seemed different from before, prompting Kang Chil-ho to suspect something familiar. Immediately, he activated his sight technique. The system displayed all her information, alignment, profession, career achievements, and possessed abilities. Kang Chil-ho realized she was 100% a civilian, not an awakener. What caught his attention was the note under her ability, amnesia. He didn't need any more details and averted his gaze, feeling a weight in his chest. So many people had lost loved ones, and so many more couldn't bear the toll on their minds. Spiritual and mental injuries, even from magic therapy in other worlds, couldn't always heal them. Kang Chil-ho squeezed his eyes shut, trying not to think about it any longer. If it were possible, he wished the nightmares would never return. Still lost in thought, he realized there was only one thing he could do to repay this through good food. Just as he was about to use the ingredients he had saved for jjajangmyeon, a sound caught his attention. Oh no! Peeking out with wide, sparkling eyes, Kyle's gaze was enough to melt anyone's heart instantly. She stood there adorably, lifting her head to look around. The elderly woman noticed her too, her face showing a hint of surprise. She studied Cole closely, murmuring, "This is." Meanwhile, Kang Chil-ho was already drenched in sweat, heart racing, as he heard her next question. What is this?" The elderly woman lowered her head slightly, then lifted it again, taking her time to study Kyuri standing before her with those sparkling, innocent eyes. Kyuri wagged her tail happily, a gesture as if welcoming a new guest, which made the woman exclaim, "This is." Kang Chil-ho froze, completely caught off guard by the scene. He quickly avoided her gaze, still unsure how to explain, murmuring, "Sorry, this child is." But the woman interrupted, her voice cutting in. "Ha, is there a little dog here?" He blinked in surprise. A dog. He instinctively turned to look and saw the woman holding Kyuri gently in her arms, laughing softly. "Oh my, so cute. Looks just like my Beiku. What's its name?" Kyuri proudly lifted her chin and replied in a clear, sweet voice, "Kaori." The woman clapped her hands, delighted, "Wonderful. And it can talk too." Just then, Kan burst in, panicked, calling out, "Chil-ho." Kang Chil-ho replied calmly, "Ah, you're here." While the look of shock on Kan's face was evident, why was Jile with a human? Kan pressed on, worried, "Is it okay?" Kang Chil-ho didn't answer immediately. He quietly glanced at the grandmother and Kyuri playing happily together, then finally spoke in a composed voice, "It's fine. Just keep an eye out in case any other customers come in." Turning back to the small kitchen, he leaned on the counter and thought, "All right, I'll make black bean noodles then." His eyes settled on a fresh cut of beef, marbled beautifully like veins in stone. He recalled that it used to be a common dish anywhere, but now it was hard to find. The ingredients were increasingly scarce. His gaze drifted to other rare ingredients, a jar of bright red gochujang chili paste, and especially a jar of black bean paste. In his mind he already went through the steps. First, the black bean sauce, a fermented soybean paste made in the Chinese or Japanese style. These pastes were far more labor-intensive than he had thought. He reached for a pack of ramen noodles from the cupboard, thinking further. The next concern was the noodles themselves. There are stores that sell fresh noodles, but since the customer was in a hurry, instant ramen would suffice. With practiced hands, he stirred the sauce over high heat, the aroma rising. When sauteing the black bean paste, It thickened to a consistency like charcoal mixed with water, and once it became glossy it was ready. Nearby, a pot of water boiled vigorously for the noodles. He muttered to himself, "Next, while the noodles are boiling, add the black bean sauce and starch powder to the sautéed meat and onions, then bring it all to a boil." Before long, a glossy, perfectly arranged plate of black bean noodles with kingpin beef was ready, accompanied by a side dish of fragrant, crisp radish kimchi. The grandmother and Curie were still playing joyfully. She stroked Curie's head, giggling. "Oh my, all right." Kang Chil-ho approached with the tray of food, speaking softly, "Here you go, ma'am. Your black bean noodles are ready." The woman suddenly remembered in a panic, "Oh dear, I almost forgot. I have to take this home, my grandchild is waiting, so I must hurry." Kang Chil-ho, unbothered, simply nodded. "Ah, I understand. Please wait a moment." With that, he returned to the kitchen quickly, carefully preparing a takeaway box for her. He held out the bag with both hands, his voice gentle as he instructed, "Here you go. I've wrapped it carefully in plastic and packed the entire bowl, so please be careful not to break it. Next time, kindly return the bowl, okay?" The elderly woman took the bag in one hand and offered money with the other, smiling warmly. "Thank you very much. Here's the payment for the black bean noodles." He looked at the bills in her hand, thinking to himself, a 1,000 won note. It's been a long time since I've seen one. Kang Chil-ho escorted her all the way to the door, softly saying, "Take care." Kyuri waved happily, chattering goodbye. From then on, Arirang, sometimes coming by to buy bean noodles to take away, would slowly push her heavily loaded cart along the street. She always came alone, ordering the same bowl, but the person she intended to deliver it to varied each time, sometimes to her grandfather, sometimes to her grandchild. Kang Chil-ho had often had to visit the wholesale market in Seodaemun to buy bowls and dishes, but the bowls never came back. He understood she didn't mean to take them. He slowly selected some items, thinking quietly, "I've silently bought extra bowls," and nodded at the vendor, "Thank you." On the way back, his eyes suddenly caught a place, and his steps faltered. He stood still for a long while, gazing toward the distant graves. Slowly stepping forward, his eyes scanned the area, hearing in the distance the muffled sounds of mourners crying. He exhaled softly, realizing, indeed, my parents' graves cannot be here. Suddenly a man's voice rang out. "Oh my, ma'am, what are you doing? How could you do this?" He recognized the elderly woman as the one who often bought black bean noodles from his shop. She was being held back by the cemetery caretaker, clearly annoyed. "Why are you stopping me? I have to bring this to my grandchild and grandfather." The man tried to reason calmly, "It's complicated, Mom. This is a cemetery." He pointed toward a section where bowls of noodles were stacked high. "You can't bring food in here. Look, the insects are swarming. You won't be able to sleep here either, you'll catch a cold." Unable to persuade her, he finally gave up, leaving a warning behind. "Honestly, if you don't clear this spot today, I'll throw it all away. I'm serious." Kang Chil-ho quietly stood to the side, observing the whole scene, letting out a soft hum. His gaze suddenly stopped at a dilapidated hut nearby. Thinking to himself, "She lives here?" The sunlight filtered in, highlighting a faded photo of a three-person family. He thought further about how the pictures had aged and faded over time. As he was still lost in thought, he saw the elderly woman, tired, sigh deeply, then slowly step into the hut. Her wrinkled hands trembled as she took hold of the old photograph, eyes fixed on it for a long moment. Her fingers gently traced the image, and a small, gentle smile curved on her lips. In that instant, Kang Chil-ho felt a weight settle in his chest. Humans, he realized, don't only smile when happy, they don't always cry in times of true suffering either. Seeing the elderly woman's kind smile, he couldn't help but recall his own past. Instead of crying, they would smile. "Yes, back then I smiled like that too, just like this." He turned away from that place, each step heavy, thinking to himself that smiling had become a habit. Though the sky was pale and clear in parts, the scene here carried a subtle, melancholy chill. Outside, dark clouds rolled in, and the rain poured relentlessly. Yet inside the small house, a strange warmth lingered. Kang Chil-ho smiled as he saw little Gail pressing her cheek against the window, waving her hands and squealing in delight, "Hi-ada, hi-ada." He glanced at Kan. "I need to buy more clothes, but the market's closed because of the prolonged rain." Kan, carrying a box of supplies, glanced at the girl and replied offhandedly, "Well, she still has something to wear. That should be fine, right?" Just then, Can suddenly stiffened, sensing something amiss. "Ah, Joel, don't drink the rainwater." He saw her sticking out her tongue, savoring the raindrops, and couldn't help but think, seeing her enjoy the rain like this, she really is a true blue dragon. The radio abruptly blared with urgent warnings. Please be on alert for Kelpie appearances due to heavy rain. When encountering a Kelpie, avoid areas without water and immediately report to the Temple Mercenary Squad or the Guild. The volume escalated, emphasizing the severity, repeating, "This is a Kelpie warning." Keelho folded his arms, looking seriously at Can. "Keep watch over the house for me." Outside, the downpour showed no sign of easing. He took a deep breath, resting one foot on the railing, anxiety knotting in his chest. Then he leapt into the thick curtain of rain, silently exhaling, a foreboding sense of danger pressing down on him. His figure hovered midair, a purple aura enveloping his entire body. His expression darkened as a strange, uneasy premonition rose within him. Elsewhere, the elderly woman leaned on her hands, bewildered. "Huh?" She turned her head, scanning her surroundings, but saw no one. Panic crept in. "Where is this?" Then Ariring looked up, spotting a signpost. "Ah, finally, I've found the station." An old train slowly approached from the distance. It stopped right before her, the wheels sparking lightly as metal scraped against metal. The carriage door creaked open, revealing the silhouette of a man standing there. He extended his hand in invitation, and the elderly woman's eyes widened. "Huh?" The mist and smoke surrounding him gradually dissipated, revealing a neatly dressed man leaning on a cane. His voice was soft and gentle. "Shall we go?" The elderly woman chuckled in response, muttering, "Really, no matter how fine the clothes, you still can't hide the smell of cow dung." From inside the train carriage, a young boy poked his head out, calling in a sweet, cheerful voice, "Grandma." The elderly woman's face lit up. "Yunho, our little dog." She hurried forward, frowning with concern. "Yunho, my dear, why does your face look?" Suddenly, panic flashed across her eyes. Why can't I remember?" She squinted, trying to focus on the faces of the grandfather and grandson, but the features blurred like an old, faded photograph. The more she tried, the less she could recognize them. At some point, the memories began to fade, the world growing hazy like a washed-out picture. No, the voice called out again, "Let's go." She stood frozen, unable to recall. Everything sank into darkness, as always, like a black and white photograph. In the night, a long-legged figure with cloven hooves appeared. The hooves hit the ground, splashing droplets everywhere. The Kelpie tossed its head, rearing its front legs high. A chilling neigh echoed through the air. Below, the frail body of the elderly woman trembled slightly, her slow breath signaling a deep sleep, oblivious to the danger closing in. The mythical creature advanced, sniffing around her. Suddenly, it bared its razor-sharp teeth, ready to devour its prey. At that critical moment, Kang Chil-ho swung his fist, delivering a powerful punch that sent the Kelpie flying back. He muttered through clenched teeth, as expected. His eyes scanned the shattered dishes scattered across the floor, noodles mixed with rainwater. He guessed that perhaps the woman had noticed something while eating her ruined black bean noodles, but thankfully, he had arrived just in time. At that instant, the groundskeeper's voice echoed, footsteps pounding rapidly. "Hurry. Ariring's here." Chilho activated his magic, his figure blurring and vanishing before they could reach him. He glided above the ground, his gaze fixed on the unusual pool of greenish liquid left behind. The rain acted as a natural curtain, concealing all his movements. Below, a man's urgent voice shouted, "Over here, quickly." When they arrived, all they saw was the pool of liquid, alongside a small purple magical stone. The man looked bewildered. "Ha, I clearly just saw a Kelpie form." Kim Song-hu picked up the stone from the ground. "Based on this low-level magical fragment, and the traces around it, there's no doubt one has appeared here." He sat down, carefully examining the chaotic scene, calculating silently. If a Kelpie could manifest from such a small puddle, it must be fairly powerful. His brows furrowed, hands clenching into fists, voice deepening. And on top of that, there's an additional source of unknown power. Then he sprang up, turning decisively to his teammates. "Luckily, first we need to get her out of here. There could still be Kelpies around." The groundskeeper nodded quickly. Yes, sir. Arirang, half-conscious, was carried on the groundskeeper's back, only able to whisper a name in a haze of awareness: Yanhu. A single tear traced down her gaunt cheek, mingling with the raindrops still clinging to her face. Father, she murmured. As if responding to the earlier call from her father, she whispered again, let's go. The photograph inside the tattered hut must have fallen to the cold floor from the disturbance. The glass in the frame was cracked and shattered into deep, jagged lines. Fragments of glass scattered like the silent eruption of a long-held anger. Within the frame, the figures of the grandfather and grandson had faded beyond recognition, leaving only a void of deep black. She repeated once more, let's go. The rain had finally stopped, and the gloomy sky gradually brightened. The dark clouds began to disperse like cold wisps of smoke. When the door creaked open, he immediately greeted her, welcome. The person stepping inside was the elderly woman, her appearance carefully put together as if nothing had happened. In her hands was a small plastic bag. She spoke gently, hello. Kang Chil-ho stepped forward to take the bag, peering inside to find several brand new bowls. The woman looked apologetic. Here, the bowls I brought last time got broken, so I've brought replacements. I'm sorry for troubling you all this time. He smiled warmly. It's no problem at all. His eyes briefly flicked to her brand new outfit, and he thought to himself, new clothes. Curious, he asked, are you heading somewhere? The elderly woman bowed her head slightly and murmured, yes, a little. His gaze wandered to the bag in her hands, and he fell into thought for a moment. He carried the bowls into the kitchen, then turned to her. Even if you're leaving soon, please have a meal before you go. She sat down on her usual chair while he busied himself washing dishes. He spoke up. Would black bean noodles be all right for your meal? She looked up and replied, yes, that's perfect. He busied himself preparing the ingredients, pulling out another pack of noodles as before. The ingredients were sufficient, and he decided to use instant ramen noodles like last time. Then he suddenly remembered something. Turning back, he asked, are you in a hurry? She lifted her head and said, no, I'm not busy. A bright smile spread across his face. All right then, please wait just a moment. The kitchen filled with the comforting aroma of wheat flour and the familiar scent of everyday life. As he kneaded the dough, he murmured to himself, today, I'll make hand-pulled noodles. While working the dough, he thought, to make authentic hand-pulled noodles, it requires a long resting time, but I can't do that right now. Carefully, Chil-ho cut the dough into fine strands. They would resemble kalguksu noodles, yet retain a slightly chewier texture than instant noodles. With just a few steps, he presented a bowl of noodles to the elderly woman, a freshly prepared bowl of black bean noodles. Arirang's eyes widened in surprise as she looked at the glossy strands, whispering, this is. Then she fell silent, and he crossed his arms, waiting patiently for her to continue. Finally, with a somber expression, she spoke slowly. Long ago, her thoughts drifted to the past, recalling her late husband. I was a farmer, living a busy and laborious life. But it was a life worth living. She remembered the two of them sharing lunch in the vast fields. Her husband had a gruff personality but was a good man. He spoke with a Seoul accent, so I picked it up too. Over time, the Seoul accent became more familiar to me than my own rural dialect. Then she remembered her little grandson. Together with him, each week they would visit the county market, and always, without fail, they would eat black bean noodles. Her eyes glistened, brimming with unshed tears. Kang Chil-ho quietly reflected, I see, she continued, her voice catching. When we watched the little one eat, we were so happy that we just sat there watching. The elderly woman clutched the fabric of her blouse tightly over her chest. But now, I can't even remember my husband's or my grandson's faces clearly, they've grown so faint. He remained silent, simply listening to her. I don't want to forget, but I keep losing those memories. The thought made him uneasy. Suddenly, a pure childlike voice called out, Papa. The little girl scampered forward, her small feet clad in bear-shaped slippers. Kairi knelt down, wrapping her arms around the elderly woman's legs, beaming with joy. Grandma, she exclaimed. The woman responded gently. Ah, then she turned to Kang Chil-ho and asked, May I let this little one have some black bean noodles? He nodded with a smile. I'll prepare an extra serving for you. Kang Chil-ho carried over another bowl. Here, another bowl of black bean noodles ready for her. The girl clapped her hands and wiggled her arms and legs in delight on the woman's lap, chanting happily, Chew roo roo roo. Oh wonderful. Kaori's curious eyes fell on the plate of noodles. Grandma, what's this? She asked. The woman replied simply, it's black bean noodles. She hesitated as she lifted her chopsticks, then paused, staring thoughtfully at the bowl. Seeing the woman not touch the food, the little girl asked, aren't you going to eat? Kaori grinned, her eyes squinting, sauce smeared around her mouth. Papa cooked it. It's really delicious. The elderly woman looked up for a moment, gazing at the starry sky. Her words were soft, almost to herself, or perhaps to Kaori. Yes, black bean noodles this good. After a while both bowls were emptied, only a little sauce remaining. She spoke up, sir. Could you please tally the bill for me? Kang Chil-ho stepped forward. Are you leaving now? She stood, replying. Yes. Then she glanced out the window. It's time for the train. He murmured, I see, and the payment for this meal. He smiled gently. Consider it free. The woman looked surprised. What do you mean? He explained softly. Here at our little place, we always serve those who are about to set out on their journey for free. Her eyes drifted into the distance. I see, she said quietly. The elderly woman smiled sincerely. Thank you very much. May you be well. Kang Chil-ho watched her receding figure under the streetlights, thinking to himself, on that road many people walk along paths of their own. He remembered the father and daughter, the path of a father who lived entirely for his child. He remembered the figure of the hero, the quiet road into retirement for a weary veteran. He remembered the couple he had encountered, and the pure, tender path of a man in love. Kang Chil-ho held the little girl in his arms, watching the elderly woman's figure as she departed on her journey. The girl waved, calling out Grandma goodbye. Watching the streaks of light racing across the star-filled sky, he silently bid farewell as well, whispering, goodbye. The woman ran after the train she had glimpsed earlier. Panting heavily, she called out, wait a moment. Her shoes slipped off, but she still pressed on. Puzzled by herself, wondering why she was running after the train like this. She gasped for breath, sweat streaming down her cheeks. Just a little longer. Suddenly she heard a voice call her mother. She turned, and there on the train were her loved ones, waving and calling out mother. Mother. She saw her children, her eldest daughter, her second son, and her tiny youngest child. Then she heard her little grandchild's voice calling her, Grandma, and she whispered back, my grandchild. Now she could see their faces clearly, the memories returning, slowly becoming vivid again. The train came to a halt, its doors opening, and there was the same man wearing the same clothes. He softly parted his lips, calling Grandma. His face became fully visible, a gentle smile on his lips. It must have been really hard for you, he asked. Then he extended his hand. Now, let's go. The woman froze for a moment. Immediately she took his hand, smiling through tears of joy. Yes, that's right. The cemetery caretaker ran over in alarm, finding the elderly woman lying still on the ground. Grandma. He shook her gently, please wake up. Then, as if understanding in that instant, he broke down in tears. He looked at her lying quietly on the grass, a faint smile still on her lips. She had asked about the Arirang Express, and now, she had finally boarded it. He was startled to notice a neatly placed bowl of noodles beside her. The bowl of noodles had been carefully wrapped, and beside it lay a neatly rolled stack of money. He wondered silently if someone had come and gone before him. Kang Chil-ho hovered in the sky, arms crossed, observing everything unfolding below. No one could hold back someone determined to leave. I could extend her life, he thought, and for him now, that was an easy task. He sighed, eyes tracing the swaying green grass under the sunlight, yet even so, life sometimes felt cruel just like this moment. Meanwhile, at the Zengkark Seoul office, the sky was clear, sunlight streaming through the glass panes. Kim Sang-hoo scribbled furiously on a sheet of paper. He leaned on one hand, frowning in thought. Something was happening, someone in Seoul was orchestrating strange events. He sensed a presence controlling the world, a being beyond anyone's imagination, silent, ethereal and enigmatic. Absent-mindedly he traced a circle on the paper, yet without malice. He suddenly froze. Wait, could there really be someone capable of all this? His mind flashed to Jaeger, the one who had vanished during the great monster invasion 10 years ago, now resurfacing in rumor. He recalled the scene of that chaotic battle years ago. No, he had seen Jaeger dive into the spatial rift alongside a self-destructing boss-level creature, saving countless lives in that final confrontation. He reminded himself, of course, Jaeger was considered one of Korea's 3 rank 1 awakened. He was still alive, but the association had deemed it impossible for him to return. Kim Sang-hoo lowered his head, hand on his lips, thinking. Or, could it be that the association was secretly harboring a rank 0 awakened? He raised his hand, scattering papers in frustration. I don't know anymore. Sitting amid the chaos, he sank into thought again. Ever since the magical quarry incident, high-tier monsters had begun spilling out from the dungeons. He covered his face with his hand, as though foreseeing a major invasion, letting out a weary sigh. Why must there be so many things to worry about? Regaining composure, he grabbed a nearby sheet of paper. Handle the urgent matters first. And the most pressing matter recently was him. He looked at the photo on the dossier. Ryu Shin, younger brother of rank 1 awakened Jaeger.